Hello and welcome to the Magic of Podcast with Paul Rothman, that's me, and my very special guest. I'm very excited today because I've got my friend Tim Bran all the way from the UK, or London. You're in London, aren't you?
I'm in London, yeah. London.
Tim Bran, record producer, creative man, magician, writer, music, Tim, tell me about yourself. What do you actually do?
These days, I produce music. I make artists and bands sound as good as they can, and kind of help them with finding their sound, or writing with them as well. Is a good way to kind of meet artists and bands. Usually, artists writing with artists, and then making albums, making records, getting them to the finish line, dealing with record companies, managers. I think I've kind of done it since I used to be in bands and stuff. I'm sure we'll go through all this, but I used to be in bands and toured the world and did all that, and then decided I needed to kind of stop touring. My health was suffering and stuff. It was too much, and I didn't enjoy traveling at the time and stuff. It all came too much. So since about 2000, I've been producing. So for the last 20 years, I've been producing. I always was before that, but properly and doing that.
So you sent me your playlist on Spotify, and I've been listening to it, and it's really cool. There's a few bands. Actually, you tweeted the other day about this band, Walking on Cars. Yeah, and they split up.
They literally split up the day after. I hope it wasn't because of my tweet, but
it was. Apparently, it was because of your tweet.
That was how it is. Yeah, you heard it here first. No, I was. We'd done some recording. Actually, under lockdown, we'd done some recording from Ireland. They were all in separate locations. We'll talk about that in a minute. But they. This was their third. We'd done 2 albums with them, and this was their third kind of beginning of their third album. But unfortunately, they've parted ways.
And that's the one with speeding cars and that.
Yep. Yeah. So had you heard that before? Had you heard Speeding
No, and I actually listened to them first when you tweeted or they tweeted about breaking up. And I thought, I'll check this band out. And I listened to it and I was like, how did I miss this? I
know, they're quite amazing. And weirdly, they're huge in Ireland, obviously, but they're from Dingle in Ireland.
Right.
And they're huge in Germany. Speeding Cars, if you picked up on that one, that was a massive hit in Germany. Which is a great thing because Germany is, I believe, the second largest music sales in the world, second to America.
Wow!
So if you can crack the German market and tour there alone, you could have a whole career. So they were massive there. We'd be recording the album in the studio, and they'd go off for the weekend to do a festival, and we'd see shots on Instagram of them paying to like 20,000 people. It's like, oh my goodness, they're massive, and didn't really do anything in the UK. But I mean, did gigs here and stuff, and had quite a fan base, but not half as much as Germany. But you can. It's there's so many markets in the world. You can be huge in one market and have a whole living off that.
Well, I mean, how many piece band are they? Who are they?
There's how many? I think there's 4 in the band. So there's a singer. You heard his great voice. There's a pianist and singer as well, a female pianist and singer. So a lot of the piano lines are really hooky. I don't know if you noticed, there's always a good piano hooker. There's 5 of them. Guitarist and a bass player and a drummer. And they really had a sound. I remember there was a real scrabble for them. They were huge in Ireland, as I say early on, and there was clips on YouTube of them, and every person was singing every word of every song. And they hadn't put anything out yet, and record companies look at that and go, "Hold it, this is something to." So there was, I think, quite a few record labels after them, and they ended up signing with one of the majors. And the guy that was A&Ring them came to myself and Roy Kerr, who I work with quite a bit producing. And we produced the first album. In fact, we went to Dingle. I don't know if you know where Dingle is. It's famous for a dolphin out to sea. This dolphin always comes in every year, and it's out to the Atlantic side of Ireland. So the weather can be pretty harsh down there. Me and Roy travelled to meet them to have this meeting about producing the album, and we didn't know it, but it was actually the meeting where they were going to sign the contract as well. So suddenly we were in there having photos and champagne and signing their record contract at the same time. So it was an incredible time we had out there. And it was beautiful weather, which was a bonus. So it was a beautiful place to go.
I flew over Ireland. I flew over Ireland once, and it was. I just remember looking out the airplane out the window and seeing the colour green, and it was a green I've never seen.
Yeah. I've never been to all the mountains and everything, but my wife Sarah has. She's walked across the mountains and stuff. Apparently, it's just stunning. I'd love to do that sometime. I've never really had the time to go and explore, but it is a great place. Every time I've been, I've just had... Have you been there yourself?
I've been once. Yeah. I had a friend from school, and he had, I think it was his 18th and his sister's 21st or something, and they had this marquee in their house. I can't even remember where I flew to. And I remember the colour, and I remember the smells.
Yeah, it's a fantastic... And the people are just incredible.
It just has a vibration, doesn't it?
Every time I go there, I have a great time and meet the greatest people, and the music scene is incredible. It's the oldest, the live music scene in the bars and stuff. It's just everywhere. Art and creativity, and it is really, really present there, especially in Dingle. I remember going. They have this thing called, I think it's called Other Voices or something. Mm-hmm. It's like a music festival, but they literally have bands playing in every pub and every. Like the church and I remember going to this tiny little pub the size of this room, and they were like, oh yeah, the Kooks played over there in the corner and whatever. It's like incredible. It was once a year, and it just fills up with people for this music festival. It's fantastic.
And these guys remind me, I obviously Snow Patrol was the kind of thing that jumped into my head when I listened to them. I was like,
that's funny you should say that. We Roy that I work with, Roy Kerr, who I produce a lot of this stuff with, this music with, is he's good friends. He went to university with the Snow Patrol guys, so he's still in fact he's just done something for them, actually worked with them. He's good friends with all those guys, but that was kind of one of maybe our reference points, and Imagine Dragons kind of vibe, and that big electronic versus big guitars and stuff, but mixing the two worlds, electronic and organic, which I tend to do a lot in what, I don't know how much you listen to the playlist, but a lot of it has maybe lots of pianos or strings or guitars, and then you also have the electronic drums perhaps and synths and stuff. So it's an ever-changing world. Depending on the artist, you can kind of go more electronic or more organic, and you can even change it within the mix. I enjoy doing that, experimenting with textures and stuff.
I'm going back to the playlist here, which is on my phone. Just keeps disappearing. Because I listened through actually, and there's definitely a sensibility in all of the music. I think if you threw out all this music with a mixture of other stuff, and you said, okay, what's Tim's stuff? There's a commonality of sensibility, and that is. And I thought about that. It was that kind of piano sound. It was that kind of clean, kind of pure, I'd say, musicianship. And then you get this kind of electric, other sounds coming in. It was the who was it I was looking at? I'm just looking through. There's a lot of stuff here. Dreadzone.
That, I think, was the medium list as well. Oh, Dreadzone, that's the band I used to be in. So that's the band I started with. That was my touring the world and being in the band, and pretty much, the 90s was my touring decade. That was when I had all the energy, and we literally we went to Ireland a lot with Dreadzone. We toured around Europe and signed to Virgin Records and did the full Top of the Pops and all
really?
That. And, if you look, there's some White Room and all these different TV shows we did, and it was a real. It was when European festivals were just everybody was having a festival in really great places all over Europe. It was just kicking off, and the whole. I guess the rave culture was big, and post that there was all the festivals and everything. So we had a great time, and they're still going now. Still see them regularly, and do bits of work with them now and again. But that was my band. That's interesting you picked up on that, because there's a lot of samples in there. There's a lot of cinematic references, a lot of speech samples, kind of a bit like the Orb kind of thing, very kind of otherworldly in a way. But then again, live, we do it with the live instruments and mix the samples in live and keyboards as well. So I guess never thought about it, but I was doing it back then as well, mixing the electronic and the organic kind of thing.
And you can hear that with a lot of the stuff. There's that the base of it is the really organic, real music, guitar, piano, simplicity. And then you'll have this kind of like, I can hear the little machines at play, the little electric things coming in and the sample
That's a really
stuff.
good observation. I think I think because you could have some of those songs with just piano, bass and drums or whatever, but I think you can have a subtle kind of, I always kind of refer to it as adding the kind of 3D elements. It makes it kind of going from just this to kind of things floating in, like you say, that you don't go, oh, there's something electronic, but it does give it an otherworldly thing, I guess, or a more cinematic feel, or it can be subtle sometimes. Sometimes I go through solo things. When you solo one instrument on Logic or whatever, you can solo each track. Sometimes I go through and there's a tiny little sound, and I didn't even realise it was in there, but it was like a little bed that maybe went through the whole song, or a pad sound or something, and I didn't even realise it was in there when you listen to it. But you take it out, you go, oh God, that really added so much. It's interesting. It's like, I guess I'm not such a visual person, but it's like adding, CGI maybe to a. You can't tell it's there, but it just without it would be very different.
Or you shouldn't tell it's there.
No, exactly. That's what
it's one of those. It's those movies when you see the CGI, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And then what they're doing now with a lot of movies is they're saying it's. What do they call it when it's real effects, or I can't remember what the terminology is, but it's like it's really happening. It's not computer generated.
Like Star Wars, like the spaceships in Star Wars, is that with the real models? Is that
and the real makeup rather than the CGI stuff. And but a lot of films are saying they do that now, and they're not. There's so much CGI stuff because it's got so good. You can't even see the scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
I was talking to, on the first podcast, Patrick Caird, who was composer, a musician, and he composes for predominantly film and TV and commercial, but film and TV really. And it's interesting, you even with something as structured as, say, what you're talking about here with pop songs and bands, there's definitely a sensibility. And I don't know how. I think that's the producer as well. I think that's very much of creating a mood. There's a lot of mood in this music throughout your playlist. There's a lot of mood and sensibility, and it's kind of like create a picture.
Yeah. Try to.
And you can definitely. So it's not just straightforward. Here's a song. Here's my song.
No, I rarely do anything that's very. I don't know, straight up kind of thing. I now and again I do enjoy that when we literally have a live take or something. If it is a song like that, I'd rather do it live in the studio altogether. So I'd have a guitarist and a bass player and a drummer and maybe a piano player and a vocalist, and try and do it live, even if you then replace stuff after. Like do the vocal again or repair the vocal. In fact, Walking on Cars is a great example. They're an amazing live band. And what we didn't want to do in the studio is deconstruct that and do the drums on their own and then the bass on their own. The fact that they gelled well so well live, we captured that. They literally went into the room and played it together. So that's your foundation, and the drums we'd use and the bass we'd use, and maybe we'd repair the bass or repair the guitar, or just if there was a little fluff or something, we'd repair it, but then do the vocals over that. So you always capture that live feeling as the basis of it. And don't do that all the time, but when you've got a band like that, that's the magic of the band. They're looking each other in the eyes, and there's things that they would do, especially the rhythm section, the bass player and the drummer. If they're in the room together playing, there's an unspoken thing going on when you're playing in the same room. I'm sure you've done that when you've been playing. I know you do music as well. When you're sitting there to play, and suddenly there's an electric something happens when you lock in, and that's a real magic to me. I think to capture that on tape, I was going to say on hard disk, is a real. You've got to try and get. It's like trying to capture their best gig. That's what I'm trying to do. Capture the best performance of that song. Whatever you build on top of it, then it's great. That's the production element, but capturing that is really important to me sometimes.
So there's a few integral words here. It's capturing that. It's that live essence that we're talking about, that communication, which is, we can't avoid it, but the time we're living in, we're missing that now. We're having a problem. We're lacking that sensibility, and we're being told that everything's a new normal. This is the new normal. A lot of bollocks, if you ask me, because the new normal is every day is a new normal. It changes.
It's ever changing. You're right.
It's ever changing, and this idea that we're not going to hug, touch, interact. Nonsense, absolute nonsense. People have very short memories. They can't even remember who they voted for.
It's. I think the gig thing. I mean, if you're talking about the live thing, I think it will be a while before anything happens with that. And I've done a few studio sessions recently where we've been apart but in the same room, and that's worked pretty well. I've done some where the singer has come in, gone straight into the live room on the other side of the glass, done the session, and then left. So we obviously see each other. But,
okay, that's good.
So it's all doable like that. But yeah, capturing that in a studio is going to be a little while before. I know we won't talk about COVID too much on this, but a few things for me have changed. I've actually made about. Well, two albums and a few EPs under lockdown, like using Zoom and using Skype and things like that. But I came up with I cobbled together some software systems of existing technologies to be able to record and remotely record people and capture that magic as much as I can. And it surprisingly worked, especially when you've got a determined artist that determined to get through it and not say, okay, we'll leave it till afterwards. I worked with some great artists that were determined to do it. Walking on Cars being one of them. We did that EP that you hear. That was done under lockdown, believe it or not. I don't think they've mentioned that, but we did. They haven't mentioned it yet, but we did that whilst they weren't together.
Oh, is it that new?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
That the latest EP,
it's so good.
Been working, So we did that, and it does have that magic. I mean, they're a band who play together a lot, so they do have the that communication in their nature. We did a lot of that like remotely, and it was really fun. And,
so you were in London, they were in Ireland.
But they weren't even together in the same room. They were at their separate houses. So what I do is, I won't go into too technical detail, but what I do is I'd log into their laptop. So they have their sequencer or whatever, their recording device, and I operate their computer, in their room. So it's like I'm in the room with them. I'm talking like this. We can talk over the music. We've all got headphones on. I operate their computer. They do the singing, the bass playing, the drumming, whatever, and I'm operating it. So it is like we're in the same room. It's not me trying to stream stuff to myself and the quality being bad. It's recording on their hard disk. So then at the end of the day, I just ship that all to myself. I can hear the stream live. I can hear the mic live, everything. It's with a very minimal delay. So I cobbled this together and I wrote it all up. It's on medium.com if you want to put the link up.
We'll definitely put that up.
But it's for the geeks out there who want to try it, because you could use it for anything. You could use it for podcasts. If the person wasn't technical, you could be recording them remotely. But I did it typically with a lot of vocals every day, every afternoon. I'd log in at about 1 o'clock. We'd be doing vocals all afternoon, and it kind of felt like being in the same room. It's that when you're looking at each other as well. Look, we're looking at each other in the eyes right now. We are communicating as humans, even though we're literally halfway across the world. I still feel like I'm chatting to you, and I guess maybe we've got used to that. Breaking down that forgetting we're on a screen and actually talking like human beings. I think that's what this is hopefully all about. It's communication and being able to carry on as if nothing's happening.
I want to dig into this. We'll come back to this, but I want to dig into actually quite specifics about this virtual recording, because it's something. Actually, maybe we should stick to. I've got like so many things in my head that I want to talk to you about, and that you've pulled out sort of subconsciously words such as magic and and the virtual stuff, and there's. let's just start. Actually, let's go back, and then we can kind of find the through line. So, I mean, where are you from originally?
I'm from a place called Guernsey.
Guernsey, yeah. It's an island.
Near Jersey. Everyone knows Jersey and Bergerac and things like that.
Yeah.
It's a very little island near France, and I think it's 9 miles by 6 miles. It's very small. Mm-hmm. There's about, I think, 65,000 people there. Beautiful little island. I grew up there and had a studio there and was in bands there, and I'm still go back. Obviously, I've still got family there and lots of friends, so I go back as often as I can. And yeah, grew up, learnt my trade, I guess. I had my own studio, recorded my bands. I was always the one in the band that would record the band. Then I experimented on other bands as well. They'd pay me to come and to produce them and record them.
But you don't start off as a producer. What's the first?
No, I guess I
first...
started as an engineer, maybe. So I'd operate the mixing desk and bought a
as a kid,
studio, which is a little 4-track. Yeah, and at early teens and kind of thing. I was always the one interested in the technology. I guess I'm still am, and we'll get onto some things that you might not know. Even the lockdown remote recording, I did something in the mid to late 90s as well, which had a lot of technology and music involved. But yeah, so I was always the one that wanted to find out how to get the best sound out of the tape machine or the reel-to-reel or whatever, and really kind of experimented on other bands and artists really, and tried new techniques that were coming out. Sampling and things were just coming in, so you could have a drum machine and sample people singing and play the chords and make them sound like a choir and stuff. So it was really opening up. Electronic music was just coming out of punk and stuff like that. So I was coming out of punk into electronic. So that's the two worlds, organic and electronic. I seem to be hitting on a theme here.
But that was definitely part of the 80s stuff,
yeah, exactly. I was playing some today. Human League.
I was just thinking MyRiot, you see, I know this.
Yeah,
I knew exactly what you're going to say.
I'm good at that.
Human League, exactly. I was just thinking of the Human League.
Things like that. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. When I first heard that, it sounded like the future. I mean, it still kind of does in a way. It's kind of timeless in a way. And things like Clockwork Orange, the music for that, and all that synth stuff, the early synth. I mean, it kind of sounds otherworldly out the box, because especially that early classical stuff that was done on synths, it was very strange and very cold but yet warm, because it was all analog synths and stuff. So it was this real weird combination of humans and computers, working as one. It was real. So I loved all that. So I had synths. I was buying synths as soon as I could. I've still got some of them today that I bought back then.
Did you start on the piano?
Yeah, I was classically trained. So I learnt piano first and violin at school, and kind of I sang. I guess my mum ran a choir, so I sang in that as well. So I was in the school choir. So singing, piano, violin, summers orchestras and stuff. I kind of didn't like it, but I did like it because it sounded great to be a part of an orchestra. But then got to grade 7 violin, and then discovered rock and roll and bands, and I could play guitar and learnt the guitar, electric guitar. Bought a chord book, literally learnt all the chords I could, and then decided I was the front man of a band, and that's what I did then. And then
what were you covering?
Gave up violin.
What was your who were your early? Like what music
like
got you going?
Things like that. Undertones, Jam, all that kind of stuff. Late punk, I guess, or punk mod kind of. The Clash. I mean, good, things like that. Just so much energy, and there was a real vibrant time musically. And then the electronic stuff came out. Gary Newman, Tubeway Army, things like that. Human League, Heaven 17. And that just hit me. So combining all that stuff in the studio was just like a playground for me. Synths as well as recording great drummers and stuff and vocals and everything. So I just wanted to learn it all. I'm the kind of person who I like to learn something, and if it really frustrates me if I can't, I really want to like magic and music and production. Every day I feel like I haven't learned everything, and that's I guess the beauty of both of those things that I do, amongst other things. But those two, technology as well, you will never reach the end. You will never reach. I've learned everything now. I guess it's like you'll never reach to be the boss of the job. It's not like a normal career. Every day I'm learning something new, and I love it. I absolutely lap it up. and every day I go to work when I do music, and it feels like the first day again. I'm really excited and really like, what we're going to do today? We're going to write, we're going to record. And I hope that comes across to the artists I work with, that I love it as much as they do. And I'm not there for me. I'm there to make them sound the best I can. And I hope that I try and get that across in what I say, that I'm not here to change them or destroy their songs, or I want to make sure that they sound amazing for them firstly.
London Grammar, that was the other band that
two
albums with, or 3 albums.
They've just released their new single actually, but we worked on the whole first album, If You Wait, which I'm very, very proud of. I think that's one of the proudest, one of the works I'm most proudest of, that album. For every reason, the fact that it is great, and the fact that they are great as a band, and that we went through that journey of helping them find their sound and what they sound like.
Okay, let me ask you about that. Let's just dig into that, because that's kind of interesting. So, first of all, how do you find each other, and then how much do they show you, and then how is it that you can? Here's my product, here's a song I wrote, so I'm going to throw my song at you. And you go, what do you say? I mean, it's that delicate balance, like, I like your song, but... Yeah,
that delicate's the right word, especially with London Grammar. It was a very delicate process. They hadn't done a gig before. I think they may have had a jam at university. They were fresh out of university. They'd been signed to Ministry of Sound, which is a dance label. It was the first band, I think, that Ministry had signed, and they'd heard some demos, and they'd done a lot of demos, and they'd been in with a few producers and just done demos, really, a lot of experimenting and trying to find their sound. And if you've heard London Grammar, it's fantastic voice, and there's 3 of them. There's 2 guys and a hand of the vocalist and composer, and I'm not sure that they'd actually played live in a room yet. So it's this thing of what do you sound like when you're in the room together? And when there's only 3 people, it's a very delicate thing. One drops out, it's a third of the sound has gone. So it's a very delicate sound, and a very reliant on all the parts being right. So in the studio, it was very much the same thing. We'd start with a lot of the songs were on piano to start with, maybe just a piano for the demos, piano and vocal, that was it. So it was like, do we add drums? What do we add? What could this be? This could be anything. This could be electronic. This could be... So it was a very step-by-step process of introducing new elements and saying, okay, that works. Okay, even just a bass drum sometimes. Some of those, the drums are very minimal and very subby maybe, or very subtle, but there's still a pulse or something, some synths underneath to balance it out and make it contemporary and not being just piano and vocal, which, it could still be beautiful, of course, but... it's trying to push it in different ways where you all go, that's great, that's great, we've experimented, but that bit feels good. To get rid of all this that we tried. I think we tried loads of backing vocals at first, didn't work. Even double tracking the vocal when you do 2 vocals the same, which works with some people, don't think that really worked either. So it was like, okay, we only need one voice, maybe a few different vocal textures. So it's literally experimenting with the artists and seeing what resonates with them. And I always say to artists when I sit in the studio, right at the beginning, I try and say this, is that I'm going to suggest, or we're going to suggest things. We're not proud about these things. I'm not going to be offended if you don't like them, but I'm going to show you stuff that you might not do. Otherwise, there's no point in me being here. I will experiment with a sound or treat your voice in a different way, or and whatever you like or whatever resonates with that artist, then that is extending what they are. It's like magnifying what they are. So you can come in with a piano and vocal, and then you can add... We ended up going to Prague and doing strings on it. We had like a 40-piece string section on it. So ended up doing that on maybe 5 songs. So you end up on the right songs doing strings because it suited those songs. Didn't suit them all. Some of them are just piano and drums and a bit of guitar, and that's it. But so obviously it differs for every single project. So... And it might change throughout. Sometimes you hit on something and go, actually, hold it, this album's completely electronic. It's not what we thought it was. It's every project I start, I try and make sure that they know I'm going to try and help them find what they are and make it the best thing they've ever done. Of course, that's why they don't want me destroying their sound. I'm not the kind of producer that has a sound. It's interesting what you said, that I do have a world. There is if you play all that stuff, there is a kind of area that I like. So that is my taste, I guess, and what I work on. But I don't imprint a sound on. I'm not the kind of producer who takes everything and it sounds the same when it comes out the other end. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's definitely
there
a
are
cinematic.
Who do that, and that's fine.
There's a cinematic quality to that sound. At least that's what I got. So it wasn't like, I don't know, I'm a funky producer or I'm a electronic producer.
Exactly.
It was like there's it's actually very visual. It's a kind of visual soundscape, if you like.
Quite a few of the songs that I've maybe written and produced have been used on syncs and stuff and on commercials, and so I don't see it visually. I'm not so much a visual person. I work with artists who are, and sometimes there's an artist who will have their lyrics on one side of the page and a picture that they've drawn on the other side of the page. A lot of people I work with, artists, have that two-way thing, so they're seeing a picture. And I've worked with some artists where I've brought a projector in and projected films while we were recording on the wall and stuff, or on them.
Oh my god!
I remember I did a Block Party album, and I think they already had their artwork for the album, and we were projecting that on them while they were recording the album. So you're feeding it back into itself and things like that. I love that when you do have a visual. That's something I haven't done a lot actually, but in fact I must do it again. But it's a real because you're doing stuff. It's like a playground. Then you feel like you're in a movie, or you feel like it's really, you've got to try and it also inspire the artist or band to be, they might have just travelled right across London and becoming feeling tired, or feeling they might have been out late the night before, and they've got to now record, or so you've got to try and help them. Okay, when would you like to do your vocals? If at any point you want to do your vocals, just tell me, would you jump in and sing your vocals? Because it might be a sad song, it might be a happy song, it might be an energetic song. You've got to try and capture that, again, magic. You've got to try and bottle that, and that's how I see my job, is really bottling that and magnifying what they already have, but surprising them, hopefully, with how good it can sound, seeing them jump around and go, oh my God, this sounds amazing, Those are the moments that I really cherish and aim for.
And that is the specialness of being an artist and collaborating. And we see it in a lot of mediums, singer-songwriter, solo artist, or close-up magician, or a stage magician, or stand-up comedian. But even a stand-up comedian tests.
A lot of them have,
Tests, even a stand-up.
You talk about collaborating within those
mediums, and also drawing on external forces. External art, and that is
absolutely
hugely important. That's why I love that idea of projecting the imagery on the actual singer.
I must do it again soon.
That's so cool. There was a thing.
So great.
There was a thing I did the other day. I was helping a friend of mine with a casting, a self-tape, and she was. It was a scene. It was her and her boyfriend, and she was reminiscing, listening to a track, and it was a Sidney Bechet track, and it was really cool. And then there was I think it was a Beach Boys track as well. So we were going over the script, and it said, she's listening to the Sidney Bechet, and she kind of reacts to it, and then she gets emotional because she remembers something. And then we go through the scene, and then she gets slightly emotional, and he says, oh, no, listen to this. And he puts this Beach Boys track on, and she sort of perks up a little bit, and he says how it's his dad's favourite track. The emotional connect. So what we did is I put it on my phone and Spotified it, and we played it in the recording. Oh, my God, it changes everything.
It does.
This vibe, just like...
It's like they say, you watch a movie without the music. Oh, my goodness, it's like it doesn't work. It completely loses every emotion. Not that there are some movies without music, of course, but one with music, you take the music out. It's a very different thing. I mean, I like what you said about the collaboration element within those arts. I think some people see collaboration as dilution, and the fact that they're it's not so much about them, it's more about this team. But I think there's so much. I think a confident artist or band will work with as many people as they can to orbit around them. They be the centerpiece. They'll always be the centerpiece. They've got to go out and sing these songs for the next 10 years or whatever. It's undeniably about them. And having the confidence as an artist to collaborate, like you say, and get, another thing I sometimes say is that I'm going to be a mirror. I'll be a mirror to you as well. I'll show you what you can sound like and also magnify it. So even if I'm just doing that, I've done my job. I can show them what they can be or what they could be or what they might like. Or if I didn't do that, I'd be just sitting there recording them. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. If they want that, that's fine. But I'd rather be able to just move around within their world and surprise us, and have fun with it.
Do you then, in a sense, become a band member? Or have you?
I'm not sure.
As the producer?
Oh, I have. I ended up touring the world with a guy called Julian Cope. I'm not sure you'd have heard of him.
Yeah.
Look him up. He's probably on that list. World Shut Your Mouth.
World Shut Your Mouth. World Shut Your Mouth.
Absolutely brilliant.
Shut your mouth.
Yeah. So I used to play. In fact, he was another person that when I was 14, 15, I'd be playing his songs. I'd be singing his songs, and I ended up touring the world with him. I ended up working on an album with him, and at the end of the album, sounds like a movie or something, he literally said, "Do you want to come on tour with me?" It's quite Spinal Tap as well. But he said, "Do you want to come on tour? World tour? Japan, America, Europe?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." I played keyboards on a few tracks.
How old were you?
He needed a keyboard player. This was like in my 20s. I was really
sweet.
happy about this.
Yeah.
I was like, this is my time to, to have a lot of fun. And I was 28 or something like that. And I was like, this is ready to go. And I had full energy, done my dues, done my studio world, and I was out in the world. And I thought if there's ever a chance to do a world tour, then it's with Julian. And we had so much fun. And like I say, went to Japan, went to America, bussed across America, and it was just amazing. How do we get onto this?
I don't know.
It's a train of thought somewhere.
Yeah,
it's talking about collaboration.
It's collaboration, and it's.
You ended up. You said, have you ever toured with somebody after working on it?
Yeah, and then as a producer, if he says go and come, what are you doing? Because you've escaped the album or the tracks in the studio. Now he says, right, let's go out on tour. Are you trying to recreate that album sound, or are you a musician on the gig, or?
Oh no, I was a musician very much on that gig, but my producer head never turns off. If I go and see a band and the sound isn't great, there's nothing sadder for me when it's a band I love or an artist I love and the sound isn't right, or you can't hear the vocals. It's always the vocals. You can never hear what's going on. Mm-hmm. Just turn the vocals up. I love vocals loud, as you heard on that playlist. I do like a present vocal. It's the face of the track. You want to hear every word. And live sound. I did live sound for a while and absolutely hated it because I just couldn't get the studio sound in a huge room. Every room was different on the tour, and it was just it was very frustrating for me. So I admire greatly the sound engineers out there live, getting the sound, great sound in varying rooms, But in fact, thinking about it, Dread Zone, the band that I ended up being after that, that came out for working in the studio as well. We worked in the studio, and then I ended up collaborating with them and becoming Dread Zone. So it has happened more than once. Not so much lately because I am very much a music producer. I've got a family now. I can't really go on tour. I think the last time I jumped on a tour bus was either Dread Zone, and they said, we've got one spare seat to Glastonbury for the day. Do you want to come and watch us and then come back to London? I was like, yes. So that was fun. And as soon as I got on the tour bus, I remembered why I kind of stopped touring as well. It was that kind of like, I forget that tour bus feeling, and I didn't like it. I didn't like travelling much in the end. I don't mind it so much, ironically, now. But or it was the Orb, which was a similar thing, going and doing some gigs, festivals and stuff, which was great fun. So I do miss the gig thing a bit now and again, but the gigs I miss, the travelling I don't really, because there was so much travelling. Everybody says it: hotel, venue, gig, trying to come down afterwards, can't sleep, hotel, getting up the next day, travelling again. I mean, I love the gigs, don't get me wrong, but that for 10 years, I really felt so burnt out. Had to stop.
Yeah.
And then disappeared into the studio. And I'm happy there.
It's such a weird thing, gigging. I mean, travel and, people's perception who don't do it think, oh, well, great, gig in Rome, how fantastic. And you're like, no.
It is great. It is great, but...
I'm not there on holiday. And we create in the artistic arena, you're creating the joy and the fun, and of course it's playing, and the word play is very much an important word in any of these art forms. Play is integral, and people forget that. It's about playing, not work. The best work is when it's playful but very
absolutely. I mean, there was some gigs where touring the world, you're obviously going to have some gigs where there's not as many people in the audience or something. You'd be in the middle of some town in America, I can't remember which ones, and there was maybe 50 people instead of 200 or 300 or something. And I remember thinking, I'm going to give the same show, and I remember saying to everybody, we got to give the same show, because all those people have paid. I don't care if there's one person in the audience. I'm going to all treat it like a rehearsal. Treat it like play and have fun and have the same amount of fun as if it was packed to the rafters. You just reminded me when you were saying about travelling. Julian Cope had the genius idea of doing 2 gigs in every town, so you'd get the second day off. The whole crew had the second day off because they didn't need to set up again. The venue was left as it was. You'd do a different set both nights, so the fans would come both nights. So you're kind of making twice the amount with half as much work. And then the second day we'd just go into town and see the town, and it was genius. I don't know many people have done that, but I think more people should, because that was such great fun. And he wrote a book about stone circles of England while he was on the tour. So the second day we'd drive to the stone circles and he'd write about them, and so it was like a holiday. It was literally like a holiday. It really felt like fun.
That's what it should be. I mean, I remember doing out of drama school, I did this theatre and education tour, TIE as we call it in the UK, and we were doing Robinson Crusoe around Italy, and we did the get-ins and get-outs.
Ooh,
which was first gig out. First gig out drama school, different venues in Italy for 2 or 3 months with a break in the middle for Easter.
Oh my goodness, man.
And as we did I can't remember, it was like a 9 a.m. show and an 11 a.m. show. So we had to be up at 6 a.m. and they used to send me I'd come down to the bar and nobody could talk to me. It was double or triple espresso. I developed a tic from so much caffeine. But I would go wandering, and it reminds me, because those days when we stayed in a town. It was my God! You didn't have to do the getting. Relief. It's all left. Goodness, and you got to
I can't even imagine. I hated moving gear. I hated moving bits and synths and man. How much did you have to move around? Was it like?
It wasn't like massive, but I remember that, it was lugging boxes and setting up things.
Last out, definitely.
Yeah, and I just that's. I mean, even this setup, right? I've got a nice little setup with my podcast. And we're doing it over Zoom. It's great because I get to talk to you. I get to talk to everyone in the UK, and I'm in LA, and that's fabulous.
Yeah, of course.
But I'd rather do it in person. I'd rather have you in the room and again have that energy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That.
Yep.
It's and with this setup, I can take this whole system with me, and I can go to like a friend, if we've got a social distance or something, I could do this whole setup in their garden, for example.
Yeah.
And even plug in a battery to my Rodecaster.
Nice. Go and sit on the beach.
Yeah, I could do that, but it would get full of sand.
On the beach.
Maybe. But there we are. There's the problem: the get in and the get out. So I've got to pack all this shit down.
Exactly.
I've got to set all this stuff up. It's not huge, but it's going to take me an hour. It's me doing it. Then I've got to get into this.
It doesn't feel quite so much fun, does it, when you're trying to be the artist as well?
Exactly. When you're trying to be the artist. And I remember doing a short film when I first started, and it was a mate of mine, and we did this short film. I ended up working with him a couple of times, and I remember kind of wanting to help out. I was so excited. I'm the actor in it. And then I was like, do you need me to move stuff? And I moved a couple of things, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to move stuff. I'm knackered.
Yeah, definitely. I remember doing some festivals, and you just had to move your own gear after. And it's kind of a weird thing. You've done this gig, and you're like, yeah, and then you go, I'll just move my keyboard off to the side. It's like a bit of a calm down afterwards as well, when you're having to go back on the same stage when people are still standing around. Yeah, kind of breaks that magic, doesn't it?
Well,
I said magic 3 times.
Magic.
We haven't even talked about magic.
Exactly. We haven't even touched on it. So I'm going to
always time for that.
But what's interesting is, as a magician as well, or if you were doing your show on stage in a theatre, you'd have someone set your stuff up.
Yes.
Someone announces you.
Hopefully. Yeah.
And here he is, Tim Bran is coming on.
Yeah.
Your seat is set, your mic's set, your sandwich is set, your tricks are set. And particularly as magicians, generally, because we're one-man bands, it's literally you come on with your little table.
Yeah, with your little... Yeah, exactly.
There's 150 people eating dinner. You scooch onto the stage. You're trying to do it kind of like, I'm not here, I'm invisible.
Yeah.
It's not me. You stick all your stuff there, then you go off, then you might even announce, and here he is. Announce yourself. Then you come on,
slightly different voice.
Then you crack, say it's a great show and everything, and everyone's like, yeah, and you are, you're David Copperfield at this point. It ends. And everyone's like, great. And now you have to come back on and wheel off your little table and all the pens on the floor.
That's why I don't do much stage magic, Paul. I've only done very, very few things of stage magic. I'm a close-up. I like talking to people and meeting people. And actually, that's kind of what my ethos is with magic. This is my first interview, by the way. I know I mentioned it to you earlier, but I will say this on record. This is the first interview I've ever done where I've talked about magic and music. In one go, and a lot of musicians and people that I've worked with don't know I do magic. A few I've when we in the right environment, I've crossed the threshold and done some magic for them, but only in the environment. But I don't kind of, and I guess that says a lot about the way I treat magic as an entertainment thing. I don't force it on people. I don't go, right, I'm a magician, so I have to perform, and I love it. But when we're in the studio, it's a very different thing, and that part of my brain kind of shuts down, and I really focus on what we're doing in the studio sonically and artistically. So the magic thing is literally another side of my brain which has the same challenges as music, and I've done it since 2000 actually. I remember properly getting into it in 2000. I was in San Francisco with my now wife. She knew I was into magic, and I'd always been into it since a kid. Everyone says that, but I kind of always played around a bit. But she took me to Misdirections in San Francisco. I don't know if you've ever been there, on 9th Avenue, I believe it is. And I was just like an American salesman, performer. I was like, I probably bought the whole shop. I think they saw me coming, but some of the things I've still got today, some of the bits and gimmicks and stuff and cards and stuff I bought, I've still got. So it was a real eye-opening thing. I was very lucky in that then I came back to the UK after a few months out in San Francisco, and I met a guy called Alexis Conran, who I know you know as well, who was in The Real Hustle, and a mutual friend of ours said, you must come and meet this guy Alexis, he's into magic too, and you're very similar, I think you'll really get on. They were right, we're still friends today. So I went to, I think it was his birthday party, and I went to his birthday party, and he said, you into magic, aren't you? And he pointed to this group of people in the corner. He said, you should go and chat to those guys, they're all magicians. And literally walked into this group of magicians. They were all very welcoming. It was Chris Power, Guy Hollingworth, I think Darren Brown was there maybe, Shiv Dougal, David Britland, these are the first kind of magic people I met. I was so lucky. It was like I didn't realise it at the time, but it was like being a musician and, you know, walking in a room and being introduced to Bowie or something, and then hanging out with them for a bit and chatting to them, and then becoming their friend. And I'm not as good as them, any of them, but I've learnt so much, and we're all very good friends still. And I think I'm constantly learning off, especially Chris Power and Shiv and Guy and Alex. We all hang out and share magic things even to the day, you know. Even like this on Zoom, we're still doing that. And I've met people recently at Maddox, a guy called Maddox, who you might know as well, who's a very good friend of mine, and Christian Grace and people like that. And
Maddox is in music as well.
He is. We met in a studio.
Yeah.
He literally walked in. It's another story, but I'll quickly tell it. He walked in. I was producing a band called an artist called Foxes. He was her MD, musical director. He walked in to the studio and put a kind of deck of bicycle cards down on the table, and I kind of was like, "Why have you got a deck of bicycle cards?" And he said, "Oh, I do magic on the bus." And I remember everyone going, "Oh no!" And then we've been very good friends ever since. And he left music and doesn't do much these days. And he went into magic because I encouraged him to. And
that's your fault.
And still working. It is my fault. I think he'd blame me, but he's doing all right at the moment, so he won't blame me in a negative way.
Sam, he's got a lot of names, Maddox. He's got 2 or 3 handles. He keeps changing. It's interesting, those names as well that you brought up in the magic world. I mean, a lot of lay people don't know them. They've probably heard of Darren Brown, but I talked about this actually, Guy Hollingworth as well before, who I don't think most people know. They
not
do
in the public sense.
Not in the public sense, but magnificent sleight of hand artist.
Absolutely.
In fact, his book is just over here.
There you go. Look at that.
There you go. Look at that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Beautiful book. I mean, not for regular people.
No. But it is it's wonderful. And I think I'm just very lucky to have met those guys, and I consider them to be very good friends, and it was literally like falling into the right people in London to hang out with and share magic, and we did it very regularly for many years. So yeah, I like I say, I learned a lot off them, and I do mainly close up. James Friedman as well. I'm very good friends with James over the years, and he had a company called magicians.co.uk, which I did a lot of gigs for, close up gigs, Wembley Stadium and all that, and for the people coming early in the day, and still do a lot of work for Specsavers. I've got a very good friend in Specsavers. I do pretty much all their events when they have them, yeah, over the years, done that for many years as well. So yeah, I really enjoy. It's the same. I don't do magic for magicians. I'm not a person who enters competitions. I don't know if you're not in magic. There's competitions, and there's there's a whole internal market, inventing, and it's a great market, and lecturing. And I'm not that kind of performer, but I love watching lectures and learning off other people, of course. But I do magic for entertainment to the lay audience, as we call them, and at parties, and I absolutely love it. And I love chatting to people and communicating with them, and I think that's probably the best misdirection, is to have a conversation with somebody. I think you're probably quite similar as well. You want to get on with people. You don't want to I'm very aware of what people think when a magician walks up. I guess it's the same with music, where I'm very aware of how a listener is listening to a song, and I want to angle it the best way, it leads them through the song, or it helps them into the song, into the music. And I think I do the same with magic. Sorry, I hit my mic. Yeah, that's not very professional. I think I try and do the same with magic. I'm very aware of walking up to a crowd of people who are having a conversation. Maybe tend not to do that when they're having a conversation, but walking up at the right moment, which I really consider about, and saying hi, and do you fancy seeing something, or so I'm very aware of that, and then not being a geeky magician walking up. And so I try and make it as conversational as possible, and if they like me, like they'd like an artist, then I think you're halfway there. If they like you first, or like your manner or your conversation, or you're not walking up to destroy their night or spoil their conversation, you know, they'll welcome you in more, I think.
Have you had the oi mate, can you please just fuck off?
No, I've never had that. I've had, in a good way. They've said, whatever. I've said, you know, that's fine. In the right, you fooled me way. But no, I've just, very rarely somebody will say, oh no, I'm not really, it's not the right time, or but more so, I'm not really into it, or it's all right for now. Because I never walk up and say, I never really say, do you want to see a trick, or do you want to see some magic? I always walk up and say, how's your evening going? Or, you know, obvious that I'm a magician, or, you know, they'll have seen me walking around the rest of the room, so they should have seen me as a magician, unless it's the first person I'm going up to. So they know maybe I'm a magician, and hopefully that's an easy way in, that they've seen me hopefully entertaining people around the room, around the party.
There's the classic, you know, you're booked for a gig, and certainly events organisers quite often think, well, there's 20 tables. I want you to get round the 20 tables. You've got to do all the tables. Yeah. And actually the gig doesn't facilitate that, or reception, you're going around reception. You're not going to get round every person in a reception. And as a pro, you know that. And you probably tell them, you're like, look, you know, I'm doing my best.
I'd have told them that before the gig. Yeah. I'd have said how many people are going to the gig.
Yeah.
I could probably get round 50 to 100 people in this amount of time. Mm-hmm. So you're going to need 2 magicians, or you're going to need 3 magicians, or sometimes Specsavers gigs, I've gone up and done 12 magicians, 10 magicians. So we can travel up and 2,000 people, you know. So you have to accommodate to what you're going into. But yeah, you're right. You'll get booked sometimes and go, okay, this isn't what I'm expecting. So I'll often try and find them and say, look, I'm going to get around as many people as I can. You know what? I'm the kind of guy who will actually stay longer. I don't say this to them, but I will end up staying longer. I love it so much, because most of my time these days is music. I rarely do a gig. I'll do it for friends, and every day I'm practicing something. I've got a deck of cards right here. You know, they're every room in my house. I'm always working on something. But that's in the same way as I'd be working on a way to record a great piano, or trying a new mic, or it's that endless journey that I think, as an art form, you just want to lap it up, or I do. I want to be as good as I can, and for me, you know.
How do you feel about the narrative of your performance and creating a through line? Because as a magician, especially in the close-up field, it can be... The experience I've had recently was performing at the Magic Castle, and so you're performing in a close-up room.
Yes,
but it's not really. It's not our close up.
It's more parlour, isn't it?
It's parlour. It's actually like performing on stage,
thing.
But having people
is.
There, and people have come to see you.
Yeah,
and you're in charge.
See, I've only done that a couple of times. That's very different. That's like getting up and singing a song, isn't it? Yeah. Everyone's looking at you. It's not like
it's like doing stand-up comedy, or singing a song, or I don't know.
Which both of those would probably put the fear of God in me these days.
Really?
But, I think so. I mean, I play keyboards, and I think getting up and singing, I mean, I love performing on stage, but I'm typically not the front person anymore in that respect. The only things I've done a couple of things at the Magic Circle. And I remember I asked James Friedman at the time, I said, look, I've been asked to do something at the Circle on the stage. How many does that hold? 250 people? 200 people? Beautiful little theatre there. Yeah, maybe. 200. I said, what do you think I should do? I do stage stuff. What shall I do? And great advice. He said, well, what's your best close-up trick? What's your favourite close-up tricks? Make them bigger. Which is a great idea. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And at first I thought, that sounds really simple. But then I did go through 2 or 3 things, and I made them bigger. I went down in the audience, got somebody involved, and it wasn't David Copperfield, but I was quite proud of what I did, and I did a couple of performances. But I ended up loving just doing the close-up there, and meeting people and seeing them this close, you know, and doing stuff in their hands. That's what I always think about their experience. I don't try and walk up and perform at people. I really don't do that. I don't do anything where I'm ever going, look at me, how great I am. Look, I'm going to make a coin vanish. And I never do that thing. I sometimes learn things just as a principle, or as a something to entertain myself. But I never walk up to somebody and perform at a table. I think that's something different. I don't mind people who do, and it's a real art to do that. But I like to put something in their hands and then it's changed into something, or they're thinking of something and I write it down, or lots of different scenarios. But I like to think of their perception of it, and it's producing magic, I guess. It's thinking, how are they seeing from their point of view? How are they hearing it? How are they seeing it? How are they experiencing it? Naturally, I go to that viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it's right for me.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong.
Just with music, there's no right or wrong.
Right.
And it's very much the same thing. When I first got into magic, you might be the same, but it's like you were saying about playing covers earlier. You know, when you first get into music, you play your covers. So you go out and you learn everybody's tricks. You go, I like this, I like this, I like this, and you buy everything. I did.
Mm-hmm.
I bought half of the magic shops I went to, because not only that I really wanted to find out how they were done and learn the principles, but actually to find out what I liked.
Yes.
And maybe they'd perform something for me in the magic shop. I go, I love that. I'm going to buy that. And I buy it and get home and go, oh, this really isn't me. I would never do that. I would never pull this out and do this with it, or, so it's really slimmed down my magic collection now. I've got loads of books, but my magic collection is just lots of honed down things that I know that I love and people enjoy when I perform it,
Mm-hmm.
So it was that cover version period of playing everything and learning how you get inside the songs. That's what you're doing when you're playing a cover. You're learning, how did this chord, oh, that's cool, that's maybe I'll write a song that's similar to that. Then you kind of make them your own. So by singing a song, you automatically make it your own anyway, because you're not sounding like the original person. And then other people go on to writing their own songs and inventing their own tricks. It's the same kind of analogy all the way through, I've come up with a few ideas over the years, but I don't think they're anything groundbreaking. They're always based on something else. But I typically take maybe a routine of somebody's that I'll maybe have learnt or bought or read, and kind of going, oh, I like that bit, but that middle bit, I'm going to change that. I'm going to do something that I found here that I really liked, and I'm going to slot that in. To make it more me, probably. And I never really say the patter that was, or the words that go with a trick. Why would I do something by somebody else? I try and perform it so much that it's like me having a conversation, or like I was really saying it, not just reading. I mean, scripts are fine, and you do have parameters, obviously, but try and make it sound natural. A great master of that is Andy Nyman. Sometimes he'll go into a trick and you're halfway through and you go, hold it, that wasn't a conversation. Andy Nyman's another person on that, who's part of that list of people who was at Alex's party as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's a master of that. You're halfway through talking, then you go, hold it, you're in the middle of a trick. He's very good at that, being very natural. Chris Power's another one. You're chatting away and suddenly you realise, hold it,
I think there's scripting, and there I've talked about this before, but there's improvising between the lines. That's what it's about.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the same with playing music. I think there's a progression.
Yeah.
There's a chord progression, and that chord progression is in loads of songs.
Yeah.
So why are they not all the same?
Yeah, or you'll play a solo and you'll play something different, or you'll hit something and go, whoa, that was good. I'll remember that for next time. Sometimes I say something, or they say something when I'm performing magic. I go, that's a great line. Well, or I'll say something, they'll react, and I'll find if I say that again, different people will react the same or very similar.
Mm-hmm.
So you get that kind of that to and fro. I love it. I wouldn't like it if I went up scripted as a magician, and somebody says something and I ignore them and just carry on with the script. I really need to feel like there's a two-way thing going on. Otherwise, they are being performed at, and that's not my style. I don't go.
To be able to do that, you really have to know your stuff. I think to be able to. You
mean technically?
Technically, to be able to deal with the moment that's thrown
jam
at you and jam with it.
Yeah, totally.
You have to, that's where experience, scripting,
flight hours,
technique,
I call it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's, doing the close-up room, I got booked for it because I went down and practiced a set in the cellar there.
Okay.
They've got, as a member, you can just go and do an act, a 20-minute act.
So I would, or half an hour you should get away with. And so I'd do that. And then I wrote down all these tricks. And then I would... There was another Angela McCluskey, who's a musician, and Paul Cantillon, his husband. They called me up and they're like, "Are you at the Magic Castle?" And I was like, no, it was Kids Week, and I was like, "Nah." And they're like, "Oh, we're going to be there tonight." And then I thought, what am I doing? I'm going to sit at home and watch Netflix. I live 10 minutes away.
Do you?
Literally 10 minutes.
You have to take me there one day. It was on my list of places.
We were going to meet up in April.
We will next when I eventually come to LA.
I looked at that message the other day. I was I was gutted.
I know. Yeah. Anyway.
Yes. Anyway, back to triple things.
Not going to talk about that.
But I was anyway. Yeah. So she said come, and so what I did, like, I knew I had to get booked there, so I wrote down a sequence of tricks. It was like, well, what is it that you do? What is your close-up? These are my tricks.
Exactly.
How do I fashion that? And then I thought, okay, that would work. And I had my notebook, and I went there, and she came, and Jared Harris was there, was her guest, and his wife, who were lovely people, and they came and watched. They came and watched the show, and actually, it was funny. So I had my script. I knew what I was doing. I had it scripting, and I kind of put it together. I got the shakes. The magic shakes, which I haven't had for yonks.
Had you done much stage or parlour stuff like that before?
Yeah, not like.
It's a different thing.
It's
isn't
different.
It?
Yeah,
it wasn't different thing.
Very different thing, and it's there's the actor, like, knowing your script, knowing the play, and
but there's so many other things with magic as well. It's not just what you say, is it?
Yeah,
goodness me.
And so I did it. But what was interesting, the professional...
This was only for them? Only for like 3-4 people?
No, so they came in and then the whole room was packed.
Oh, I see. Okay, right.
So this was in the Hat and Hair there.
That's a lot of pressure.
Oh, yeah. So if you imagine that this table here, then I've got... And the Hat and Hair, you literally go... Well, what I do is everyone bring your chairs right up.
Oh, nice.
So they're literally this far away round the table, as many round the table as possible, and everyone else stand up and look in.
Yeah, that's great. So
you get this kind of whoa.
So it does feel like close up then, and you do feel like you're with them rather than there's a barrier between you
definitely
and
no
audience.
like it's like
break that down straight away.
We want, like, you are part of this and you cannot hide.
Like that.
And I'm a little confrontational, I'm a bit cheeky.
I know you're I suspect as the British person in America as well, do you get away with it more, or do you get away with... You do,
I
Benny Hill and all that.
Well, I just start off insulting Americans, but in a charming way. I can't,
Right.
And the ones who get it,
in a charming way, in a British accent, you can get away with it.
Exactly. The ones who get it, and the ones who don't, they'll say something, and I go, "Oh, good." Anyway, and
that's your style, though. That's you. That's you. Found something which works for you. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a very. That resonates as you, and I'd be. I don't know what I'd be if I was in the Magic Castle. But that's great that you break down that wall immediately and get them around you and make them feel like they're part of it as well, not just sitting there, essentially watching TV. It's a one-way thing. Then you're performing at them, aren't you? Rather than getting. Get all of them in there. I like that. Like that. I'd probably do the same.
Yeah, and it's you find you know who you are, so I know who I am. I know.
Did your nerves go when you did that?
So when I got the shakes in the cards, and it's an involuntary thing. It happened probably the last time it happened was
early on in my career.
Yeah, it happened maybe at my Magic Circle audition.
I was going to talk about that. That was one of the most nerve-wracking things I've ever done. Forget Glastonbury.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like... Sorry to bore you with the analogy.
Well,
again.
let me
playing a song in front of all your favourite musicians.
So, Magic Circle...
getting up, playing a song.
Magic Circle, I think it's probably worse, and I don't know. But Magic...
Yeah, it probably is, because there's secrets involved with Magic.
Yeah.
They know all the secrets you're doing. So why are you performing?
I know that, like, when actors and musicians, well, certainly actors watch Magic or watch me perform Magic, they're some of the best audiences because they're really up for playing. They get it. They want to have fun.
Okay, yeah. You have a role. They have a I see what you mean.
They get that kind of this is great improv. Like this is fun.
Yeah.
If you throw shit at those sort of people, they throw it back.
Okay, yeah.
But magic, it's weird because you got, like you said, you've got your little clique, your little clan, and actually those people that you talk about are pretty. They're pretty tight. It's a tight group. It's. I don't think it. Certainly at the Circle, there's a lot of groups, and some people, flow over, and some definitely don't.
But the audition, my goodness.
Yeah, so when you when magicians watch, they go, oh yeah, I know how that's done.
Yeah, and that's it. It's like,
and you'll say lines, and magicians are particularly bad at this. Is cod lines, somebody else's act, somebody else's comedy lines. Of course,
there's so many things. Yeah, like comedy's the same. I think it's such a binary thing. Oh, that's from somebody. That's from somebody. I mean, my approach, and I don't know what you did for your exam. Is I thought I'm going to do what I do when I go out and when I perform. If I literally remember saying to myself, if I don't enjoy this, then what is the point of me doing this? If I don't enjoy this exam, I remember Ali Bongo introduced me. I was like, this is the best day of my life. I was really excited, really nervous, like you said, really nervous, but tried to do things not in a clever way, but tried to take things that they would know how it's done, but maybe done in a slightly different way. So like a principle, but there was a little twist or a little, oh, that's interesting, or, nothing groundbreaking, nothing, but get some lay people out and perform for them as if I was at their table. And I think that's what came across. And I talk like I'm talking now, and I really enjoyed it. And I think that came across, and they knew that I knew what I was doing. Mm-hmm. That's all I needed to do. I wasn't trying to fool anybody, because what's the point? Like I say, I don't do magic for magicians. I do magic to entertain people, and that's literally my one aim, and for me to enjoy it, of course. And I love it. I love it as much as I love music, because it's that endless journey. You're always trying to be better, always trying to find out new things. And but yeah, how did you get through your exam? Did you take very much the same approach? Or?
I wanted to cancel, definitely. Leading up to it, I was like, oh, I'm not ready.
I was really, really nervous.
This is like 2006, maybe?
Same.
Yeah?
It's 2006, November.
Okay. So, yeah. So I got it. Yeah, I sort of started 2006. Maybe I did like the beginning of the following year was my audition. I can't remember. It was very quick turnover to get to audition from starting magic.
Right.
And actually, I remember talking to Noel Coulter about some things, and he gave me a really good idea on one of the tricks, which was a Art of Astonishment Paul Harris trick, and I like that. What was it called? It was one where you keep the revelation keeps happening. And there's the Seven of Hearts, and the Seven of Hearts is there, and if you'd look over there, it's the Seven of Hearts, and the Seven of Hearts. Yeah. And nice. I like playing with breaking. I like kind of breaking the rules, or the orthodoxy where they go, well, you can only do it twice, or you can't do mind reading and magic, or you can't do this. And as soon as anyone says that, I think, how can I do that?
I might do that.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. You just,
Yeah, I don't think you can have. There's no, like you said with music, there's no rules. Everybody tries to do stuff hopefully tries to do stuff that suits themselves. You do stuff that I wouldn't do. We maybe do some of the same tricks, but we do them so different. It's like me playing the same song as you. We would play them so differently, and hopefully make them our own interpretation of that. And I mean, it's the Circle. If for those who don't know, it is an actual building near Euston Station, or it's still there, I think. It's a building around it, slowly building around.
It's opening up again.
Wow,
hopefully.
Yeah, but the building that's been going on around there is incredible, the actual reconstruction of all the buildings around it. But it's a beautiful building with a lovely theatre, and to be a member you have to do an exam, basically, and there's people, it was literally people sitting there with clipboards, 2 or 3 people maybe, right? So you do something and you see them go, oh my God, what are they writing? But I remember somebody, I
I went to the toilet afterwards and somebody walked in. I think they were one of the, they said, you'll be fine. And I thought, I really hope they're right. I think they were one of the people who, maybe one of the judges or the examiners or whatever. But they were right. So I got in. And it is a good club. And like you say, there is cliques within it. But that's natural within any club. I think it's great. And I met you there. I think that's where we first met.
Yeah, it
is
was,
where we met mostly. And a few conventions as well, magic conventions and stuff. But there is a great community. But it is more like, I think in music you can do a cover version, and unless it's terrible, nobody's going to really slag you off for it. Whereas if you go publicly and do somebody else's trick, you will get slagged, and that's you're nicking somebody's act. Basically, it's a very different thing. It's a very, like I say, a very binary thing. You know, if you did it, like it's happened, hasn't it, on Britain's Got Talent and whatever's Got Talent. Somebody's literally done the same act with the same costume and the same lines, and it's this person's livelihood that they've literally copied everything about the years of defining this act, and then somebody else does it on another version of this TV show in some other language.
It happened with Piff. Piff the Magic
that's
Dragon.
What I'm thinking of when I say that.
Yeah. Mind reader.
I mean, yeah, there you go. You're doing very well. The act's coming on nicely.
Thank you.
But
the bloke dressed up as him
different.
and did the same act.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, in magic it is, but you do stars in their eyes or whatever, it's good, or it's covering somebody's song in a different way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So that's where music and magic do differ. You can't nick somebody's
but you're not going to come on and be
Bob Dylan.
Yeah, or Sting or Bruce
No,
Springsteen,
or you're right.
You're not, even if you cover it, you're going to play their song, but you're not going to go.
Yeah, you're not trying to steal anything.
You can't. You can't anyway.
And
because
the difference is, I've just realised there's royalties involved with music, which there aren't with magic. You play somebody's song. If we played one of the songs that I've recorded now, we'd have to pay the royalties to that owner of that song and the owner of the recording.
Have you seen those videos where you've got like the two kids watching Phil Collins song? You know, there's these two street black kids.
Saw one the other day. The Phil Collins one.
Yeah, the Phil Collins one.
And,
oh man,
the drum fill. Oh.
Yeah. How do they get to do that? Aren't they just? I don't understand how that
I believe
works.
YouTube pays a blanket royalty for what they broadcast. YouTube has to pay a blanket royalty. If I have a song up on YouTube that I've written, it does get royalties. Small, however small they are, but you do get royalties. I don't think they can put unlicensed stuff.
In
fact, you do
monetize.
a Facebook Live now. You put they can't. I get a royalty from it.
But the kids, I mean.
Oh, the kids don't know.
Right. Okay.
They can get revenue from their advertising, of course. If they get millions of hits, they'll have an advert on the front, and that pays them incrementally as well. The more hits they get, the more money they get.
I did a John Mayer cover on my YouTube, and it came up. You can't monetize this cover thing on YouTube, and then
came up.
Yeah, and another one didn't. It's really odd.
Oh, they do have algorithms which kind of, if I played a song now, especially not on Zoom, but on Facebook Live, it will stop. It will not bleep it out, but it will silence it. I mean, they have incredible algorithms now which is fair enough. I mean, it spoils the DJ set, but it's fair enough if there is an artist there that isn't getting paid. You know.
Let's talk about Spotify.
Big conversation. That's a whole podcast in itself. It's not only Spotify. It's all the royalties. It's you're talking about the lack of royalties or the lack of artist income. Is that what you're kind of
and the fact, I was thinking about it. Like, you've sent me the playlist.
Yeah.
So you've got all those tracks on Spotify.
Yeah.
And I used to have all my seeds. So I remember having. Well, I remember records, obviously, but I remember the change to cassette, and I quite like that because you could have your Walkman, and then CDs in your car, and then CDs came out, and I used to record everything to cassette, and make my playlist. In fact, what was funny, something popped up on Facebook the other day. A girl I knew at drama school and I think it was 94, and I made her this little cassette mixtape.
Yeah, the original mixtape.
It was a mixtape, and it was literally called Sarah's Jazzy Mix,
Great.
And it was all my favourite. I was super into jazz at that point. I was working in HMV in the jazz section, I guess. Or maybe it was before that. And then I did work in the jazz section, which I learned a lot of music.
In the jazz section in HMV? That's quite a niche job.
Yeah. Do you remember the smaller one in Oxford Street? Before Oxford Circus, the Marble Arch end, as it were.
Yeah.
And so I worked downstairs in the basement in the jazz section. And I used to... They would push all the collections and the big promoted albums because you'd have... You could kind of play anything, but they were like, lunchtime play...
Yeah.
This is what I call Jazz 5 or whatever it was.
Sure, yeah.
But I used to get into my, like, Jim Hall or Wes Montgomery or Oscar Peterson and people would come in and they're like, oh, how do I get into jazz? I go, Cannibal Adderley, something else, take that. You will get into jazz.
Go listen to that. Yeah.
Full stop.
Oh, you'd sell them. Yeah, perfect.
No,
how do I get into jazz?
Yeah,
that's great.
That's it.
It's like the magic shop, isn't it? What do I need? What's the 5 tricks I need? Yeah,
absolutely.
To understand it. There you go.
What's going to inspire? What's going to kick you off?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
what's
exactly.
What's going to kick you off?
5 avenues of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, something else, Cannibal Adderley, is going to kick you off because it's got Miles and Sam Jones and just amazing people. And it's absorbable, from a pop.
So that's the same thing now with Spotify. You log into Spotify, that's the same front row. They'll put you things that you like and things that you might like and things that they're doing the same now. It's like you putting your records at the front so people notice them when they walk in HMV. I guess they're doing the same. There's you were the gatekeeper in that respect, saying buy this because this will be really good. Spotify doing the same, and but in those days, obviously, how much would an album cost? 20 quid? No, maybe 10 quid.
Less.
10 quid. Yeah.
12, like a new album.
I think they're 20 now, actually.
$12.99 maybe. And
so that, that's a lot more money than you get, now for a lot of... You'd have to have quite a few plays even to make 13 quid. You wouldn't get that 13 quid, of course, as an artist. The record label would take their cut as well, but still,
there was
a million records in those days. That's a lot of,
jazz was is and was a niche area. And I remember, like, my dad had a Jim Hall concerto, and it had Concerto de Aranjuez on it, and it's an amazing version. Check it out, Jim Hall concerto. It's fabulous.
Jazz is something that I've played it, and but I'm very on the surface with jazz. I haven't. You'll have to send me a playlist of those 5 albums you just handed to somebody in the HMV.
Okay. I'll give you
send me that
playlist.
I'll be off.
Yeah.
My whole musical landscape will change.
Well, musically, I was like, for me as a guitarist, it was Wes Montgomery.
Yeah.
George Benson actually was my door into guitar, and I liked his vocal as well, and the ability to switch from a vocal idea into a lead idea and literally be on point note for note.
Yeah. I mean, incredible.
Crazy. And he goes back to Wes Montgomery, and that goes back to Charlie Christian, and then you start finding these journeys, and for piano it was like Oscar Peterson. Very melodic, actually. Very melodic players.
Incredible.
Not complex ideas to take in. Whereas if you listen to maybe, I don't know, Chick Corea,
pretty complex.
Or
play any of it, but
or Hancock, or
compared to others.
Certainly that earliest modern jazz style. I was really into the Blue Note stuff, and then that starts pushing out. And
send me that playlist. I'd be very interested to.
Okay,
the 5 albums you handed to that person when they walked in.
Right? Yeah. Maybe I'll make a new one of my top. It was
make me a mixtape.
Okay, I'll make you a mixtape. Yeah,
there you go.
John Coltrane.
I love the way
Blue
they still call them a mixtape now, even if it's a playlist.
Oh yeah, well yeah.
But Spotify. I mean, it's a whole thing. It's like, I think without going on about too much, I think my interpretation of it was music became free. MP3s. I remember downloading the first MP3 in the 90s off Napster. The Fraunhofer Institute in Germany, who invented the MP3.
Oh, right.
It was a laboratory in Germany, and I remember they had experimental, and I downloaded an MP3, and it was a whole song, and it was only 5 megabytes. I was like, oh. I remember I was with Will Henshaw, this guy I'm still friends with now, and we were like, oh, I think everything's just changed. We just downloaded a song in about 2 minutes in those days.
And then Napster, like you say, came along. Everything became free. LimeWire and all that, and I don't know, BitTorrent, whatever, all that torrent stuff.
Yeah.
So basically, everybody getting everything for free. Oh my God! All this stuff that somebody had on CDs became digitized into numbers, basically, and downloadable.
Magic videos, all the DVDs.
Exactly, same problem. Still problem with that. As soon as you can digitize something and copy it, essentially record it to cassette in the early days, you're duplicating it, and therefore you could hand it to your mate. And he could hand it to theirs, and they could hand it to their friends, and whatever. So I think the labels panicked and wanted to hold on to their what they'd had until that point in the short history of recorded music, and did a deal with iTunes. I think came along first, and iTunes went, "We'll just make every song 99p. It's above board. Everything's fine. People can buy it." Streaming didn't really exist then. It was so that's kind of all right. 99p a song, an album, that's a tenner. So it's kind of about the same. You see, it became similar. But then streaming came along, Spotify, Deezer, all that, and I think again the labels went, "We've got to grab some power here." They did a deal with all of them and invested, and you're still not apparently allowed to see the deals that they did with Spotify and all that. If you're an artist and you ask your label to see the deals, they're secret as such, I believe, which is kind of weird. So the labels held on to their power, and the streaming companies still take a lot of the... I think it's 90% of the streaming money goes to the majors, and 10% is the rest. It's very... I might have misquoted that. There might be a few off, but it's a very small amount of indie and
it's
if
something
I
like
put a track up there, there's very little chance I'll make a living out of it.
Yeah, it's like
it's not even, basically.
1 cent a play, or even less than that. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, but even more complicated, I think the people that play more, like Ed Sheeran, they get more streams, they get more money.
Oh, yeah?
Not only due to the amount of streams, they get a bigger cut of the extra revenue, and so there's something else going on. So it's even more unfair as to not making money, or making even less as a new artist. And it's just a real problem in the creation front, in the creativity, because great, I've made my lovely album and I put it up there, and I've got the world could possibly listen to it. That's the idea you have in your head, but there's so much out there as well, and you're not at the front of the store like you handing your 5 albums. Those were big players. They were big famous people. The same as Spotify going, "Oh, you should listen to the new so and so Ed Sheeran and whoever the big players are." You're not getting your little less than 1,000 plays up front. You're never getting that. You're seeing how many plays they've had. How can you? Maybe people judge it more on how many plays they've had now. Well, would they play the song that hasn't had 1,000 plays next to something that's had 10 million? Mm-hmm. Maybe you'd go, "Oh no, everybody else likes this one, but hold it. Why not check out the one that it might be better than the one you've just missed? You know." So it's a real frustrating thing. I think it might be a passing fact. I think it might change again. I think there might be a recalibration of the royalties and the splits, and the labels taking their cut. And by the time it gets to the artist, it's hardly anything. It's very hard to make a living out of it. I'm in the production, so I'm not, and the writing, I guess, but I get paid to produce an artist. I'm not out there being one artist and trying to make a living from it. I've worked with hundreds of artists, so I'm in all of their worlds, in all of their journeys, and you know, it's an ever-growing thing for me. I'm not that one artist trying to make it in the world. It's harder, a lot harder. Ironically, I can put my song up now for you to listen to, but it's harder to make a living out of it now. You know, the live thing, obviously.
Is the record company paying you then as the producer?
Yes,
that's where the money comes from.
Yes, so that's the record company invests
pre-release
in the artist. Yeah, exactly. So I get through my management. They either come to my manager or find me, or I'll eventually obviously put them through management, and I'll be employed to basically per track to make an album, or make an EP, or make a single track. Writing you don't get paid for. As a writer, you don't get paid. You go in for the few days, you write a song and trust that what you come up with will make to be a single or on an album, a successful album, and make royalties. Because obviously that recording gets played anywhere in the world, it does. Not only on Spotify, if it gets played in a restaurant, if it gets played on a TV sync, on a film, or on a trailer, that's where, or on a game, that you can make quite a lot of money from that still. It's one of the few areas where you get a sync on a track, on a trailer or something. I've had a few of those. You get a chunk of money for just being on it. You haven't done any extra work on it. They've just found this track and gone, this suits our trailer or whatever film.
In episode 8
pay you
of the podcast, I interviewed James Carrington, who's a singer-songwriter. I don't know if you know him. And
I've heard the name, actually, yeah.
Yeah, he did a track called Ache.
Yeah.
And that got picked up and put on Smallville.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've had I think a track I produced on Smallville. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And that gets you exposure, obviously, as well. But you can get some good royalties from that, the more it's shown and the more... but it's like that. It's great getting exposure, but that doesn't make you money. You do need the royalties to come in as well. It's like, you know, doing a magic gig and we're not going to pay you much, but you'll get exposure. It's like, well, I wouldn't mind the money as well because I've got to live. You know, it's nice to have that balance.
It's a weird thing with the magic. I would say 90% of those, well, you can do the gig and get exposure gigs, are worthless. Because this idea that, you know, they say, but, you know, there's all... I've had this loads of times. Oh, there'll be A-list celebrities there. There'll be A-list celebrities. They're the worst people in the world. I couldn't care less.
They're still humans. They're still humans, and it's still the same to me, whoever they are.
They get everything free anyway. I mean, it's like...
You might hand your card out to a lot of people, but it's the same as anybody. You might get a gig out of it, you might not.
But then you do those big paid gigs where there's maybe A-list celebrities, there quite often are, but you're being paid properly for what you think your value is, and you give your card out.
Absolutely.
And suddenly your value, even to those people... is much higher anyway, and you'll get booked from those
clients
gigs.
Are the people who trust. They know that you're a good performer. They know that paying you will entertain their guests and make the evening better, and they'll get good recognition for that as well. It's a trust. It's a collaborating again. It's trusting that you're investing in something to make the whole thing better. You know, not just going, well, I can do all this. I don't need entertainers, or I'll pay them a little bit, or. You invest in somebody to perform a job, and you know that they're good, then everybody will have a great night. You know, it's everybody's got to make a living at the end of the day. You know.
Yeah, but so this is interesting. So with the current situation, well, there's a couple of things. Music performing. Live performing has become so much more important because of the digital world. Actually, going gigging and touring and doing gigs and selling merchandise is the way you make money now.
Yes, you may make more money like that. The combination, hopefully.
Yeah, back in the day, you could sell, you could just sell the albums. Like, here's a CD, buy my CD.
The live thing was the extra bit.
The extra bit.
You're right.
And so
it's kind of flipped in that respect, yeah.
And now, of course, we're struggling to have any live performance.
I did an interesting thing with during lockdown. I did a lot of interesting things during lockdown. But I helped Katie Tunstall do a live gig. I really wanted to, because I was chatting to her. She's an old friend. I've known her for years.
Well, you did an album with her?
I did do an album with her relatively recently. I've known her for a long time, but we never ended up working together. But the time was right, and I did it with Roy again, Roy Kerr. We did an album with her. Had great fun doing that.
What's the album called?
And we're still very good friends. It's called Wax.
Right. Because I was listening to that, and it's got a kind of fuller sound of Katie Tunstall than I'd heard.
Yes. Yeah, she's... The new albums she's done, there's a group of them. One is more about the mind, one is more about the ears, one is more about the, so each one, and that was the one that she wanted to explore the sound and go a bit more deeper bass and a bit more, flesh it out a bit more. And it's still got that rawness, but and her vocals always have a great edge and a great emotion. She's a brilliant live performer as well. She was really frustrated obviously that the live thing stopped, and I was chatting to her and I suddenly thought, hold it. And I always tend to do this. I go, I might have a way of doing that.
And we did a gig on Zoom and got in deep and got it sounding good and got it looking great and had full cameras. She was in LA.
Uh-huh.
We were operating cameras from here in London. I wasn't even with the guy who was operating the cameras. I was doing the sound from here. I mean, we went full tech on it, and she did a paid gig for 350 people on Zoom.
And so where are the band in different places?
It was just her on her own.
Oh, just her on her own.
Band. She uses her pedals and does it. I don't know if you ever see her do that on her own. She's a force to be reckoned with. She kind of started all that, and she's got it completely down now, and is very entertaining while she does it. I look forward to the banter in between songs as much as the songs.
She exploded. I remember when she did Jules Holland.
Yeah, that was her moment. Black Horse and a Cherry Tree.
Black Horse and a Cherry Tree.
That was her moment to just show everybody what she could do, and
it was immense. That track.
She's if there was a list of performers who, if as a new artist, you came to me and said, "Who should I see?" or who, if I'm saying who you should see to gain inspiration of how to work with a crowd and how to get them on your side and how to entertain. Firstly, she's the one. She's just incredible. On her own, I've seen her absolutely nail a gig to thousands of people just on her own. Incredible. And her pedal, and a guitar. That's it. Just brilliant. And she's so funny, and she's just natural. In fact, she does that thing. She breaks down the wall between the audience and you. She's not performing at you. She's literally going, hey, she's just noticing people, and not in a hey, hi, kind of way. She just breaks down that wall. And we did this gig on Zoom where she was looking at the whole audience. You can see it up online. I think there's some clips of. So she had the whole Zoom window of 300 people in front of her, projected. So she was looking at the audience. She was reading what they were saying. She was pointing because you could see their names. I can see your name on there. She was going, "Hey, Paul, how you doing? And haven't seen you since Italy, and on the last tour." And it was a real magical performance. And from one moment, you felt like you were in the room with her, and you were in the front row because you're literally, looking at her from the front row. You weren't sat at the back. Everyone was in the front row. So it was a real interesting and inspiring moment. A very stressful time to get it right technically, but we did it, and hopefully we'll be doing more. This is me and a friend of mine called Rupert Style. So we're talking to other bands as well about doing it. This isn't another career for me. I wanted to really help somebody, or try and get the technical thing done so that people could use this and do gigs basically, because that's essentially out the window for a while.
I've seen, like on a lot of the talk shows and what have you, where they've had a band, or Crowded House I saw, for example, and all the band members, and it's split screen and they play. I saw a Lenny Kravitz one. There's quite a few.
Yeah.
They're not live, are they? There's like 8. That seems to be
live.
done.
Each one of them is live.
Yes. And they're placed
Smoke and mirrors,
in...
Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
I
clean.
think what they do is brilliantly done. I think each of them has the track in their headphones, and they record themselves, and then they sync it all up afterwards. So it's a perfect way of doing it. It's brilliant, and it looks great on screen. But there is, unfortunately, the speed of light dictates that it's not possible.
It's not possible. Okay, because you were talking...
there's a few technologies I'm investigating right now. In fact, I'm about to get a new piece of technology, hopefully through the post, where it minimises that, and you can have multiple people playing together at the same time.
Right.
But it's still not going to be zero. It's impossible unless we break the speed of light. But in the 90s, this is another thing. Another part of my my journey in technology and music. In the 90s, I came up with three friends: Will Henshaw, Canton Becker, and Matt Moller. We came up with a way of making music collaboratively. This was on modems back then in the 90s. Being able to play music with each other, with as many people as you wanted, all in the same session. It was called Rocket Network, and it was a whole part of my life that it stopped in 2000 when it was bought by DigiDesign, now Avid, who make Pro Tools, and it's in Pro Tools now. It's built into Pro Tools as a collaborative system. I think it's called cloud collaboration, but it was basically a way of all working on the same song in the same whiteboard, let's say. So we're all painting on the same whiteboard, and we're all hearing it locally timed to our own thing. So I'll play a bass part
by the time it gets to you, it plays in your timeline at the right time, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
That's a very weird way of saying it, but you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not trying to break the speed of light. It's getting to you, and then it's playing in time with you. We might be playing the same song, but in different times, but in your timeline, your local timeline, you hit play, it's in time with your vocal that you've done. And so we did this, and you could have 20 people playing the same song on the same song. We've met people from all over the world. This is in the 90s. It was like we could barely do this. It was black and white, stuttery video, like this. And we were making music. We were on Tomorrow's World. I don't know if you remember Tomorrow's World.
Of course.
We did a live thing. Again, this is the second most scary thing I've ever done in my life. Live on Tomorrow's World, peak, like 7 o'clock on a Saturday night, making a live song in an hour on Rocket Network. I was in the London studio. We had Sinead O'Connor in Ireland. We had Thomas Dolby in LA. We had a guy called Lucky Bay in South Africa. We had Brinsley from Aswad with us in Maida Vale. Cold Cut, a guy's called Cold Cut as well. And I was the guy in London with the guys on the camera manning the helm as such. And that was the second most scary moment. So trying in an hour to make it live on TV using our system, which was creaking along, but it worked. We did it, and I had to go and lie down for a while afterwards. It was literally like...
Is that online? Is that available? Yeah. Can I see that?
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow's
Okay.
World, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
I can't remember what it was called, but Song Lab or something.
Right.
Probably. But it was, you'll see an orange-haired Tim Bran. It was brilliant. It was like the culmination of all we'd been doing, but it was very, very stressful. So that was something I did back then, and I think that's kind of my fascination with technology and music, and it's still going on now. Like you say, being able to make music together. Wouldn't it be great if we could just plug our stuff in now and literally drummer and a bass player and be able to play it all at the same time, regardless of lockdown or not? Mm-hmm. The fact that you're living in LA and I'm living in the UK and we'd want to make a record together, wouldn't that be great? It's live, like play at the same time. So that's coming.
They do it with
faster now.
In a sense, they do it with films. They do it with animation. People aren't in the same room. They record them, but they do that in different times. And
we're not playing it together.
We're not doing it together.
You can't have more than 100 millisecond delay when you've got a drummer and a bass player. Even that is a lot, to be honest. But it has to be super tight for you to be super tight, and then you've got. And the third person, the fourth person, it's all this big whole echoey,
Who's been doing them? The lockdown ones. Take that. What's his name? Lead singer.
Everyone. Hasn't everyone done them?
Yeah, but
a lot of bands have done.
What's his name?
He did a live thing. Yeah, Gary Barlow.
Gary Barlow. He's been doing loads of these.
I saw a few
tons of artists. Yeah. But they're all synced, so they're not live. Synced after the fact.
The same thing where they've got it. I think so. Just slipped back into time. It's not a big delay, but I think it's just slipped. I don't technically know, but I suspect it's that because unless he's broken the speed of light, maybe Gary Barlow's broken the speed of light.
He probably can do that.
He could share it if he has. We'd all be able to do it. So I think it's a fascinating thing, and the technology and it plays a massive part in music now. But I don't try and let it. Lead the way. I try and kind of use it to its maximum, push it. I try and not get bogged down in technical. Saying that we had a technical before this, didn't we? We couldn't get the audio working, but I try and not. I get very frustrated. Yes, sorry, it was my fault. I get very frustrated when I've got an idea. Say I'm in the studio and I can't get something to. There's always something, and it breaks that flow, and I like to set up a writing session so that everything is on, everything in the room. You could pick up a mic, and there's never we've come up with something, and then you go, right, let's record the vocal. Okay, give me 10 minutes. I've just set the mic up, and we'll get a level. And I literally have a mic there in the room. I have a dictaphone on, or my phone recording. I have the synths all on. I have a piano up. I have the drums up. It has to be all accessible right there and right then. I also have lots of weird instruments around the room. This is my home office, so I don't really have a lot here. But if I was in my studio, I've got all sorts of weird little bits and bobs around the studio that you can pick up and plink and plonk and hit. And so a few of those have inspired whole songs. One little plinky thing has inspired a whole Aurora song, for example, a little thumb piano thing. So I like to... that's another thing that I've just realised. The psychology in music and writing and artist and production is the whole magic music thing again, the psychology of it all, and getting somebody in the right space to enjoy something or feel something, or leading somebody down a path, and so that the impact is you know, on the chorus or in the result of the trick is the maximized, you know. It's a real analogy I bore my magic friends with all the time, but it's really, you can learn, like you say, about mixing the arts, and I think a lot of people are looking at that a lot more these days, about learning from other arts, and certainly the music magic thing is something I'm always doing, and I really enjoy, again, technology in magic as well. Plays a part as well. There's some great technology stuff with like phones and stuff. That obviously is new stuff that we all check out. But again, it's not letting that lead. It's making that part of what we do. It's making it human. I try and if I was going to do something with a phone, it'd be about me doing something with it. It's not about here's a phone and here's, you know, I don't like the technology to lead. I like the humans to lead and use the technology to its maximum. You know? It's
framing. It's creating your stage. It's creating the You know, there was one thing I was told. You know, asking a question to you kind of talked about it with Katie Tunstall and you know, throwing it out there, and it's you know, I was doing my stage show and instead of me saying X, Y, and Z, this is about me. Steve Valentine gave me this tip. I don't know if you know Steve, great magician.
Yeah, not personally, but yeah,
great actor. And you know, he said, ask the audience the question instead of you just stating it,
right?
So you know, I was talking about growing up in London and going to the theatre and being inspired by plays, which is nice and it's exciting, and I can be authentically inspired by that. But much more powerful to say, have you ever been inspired by someone? Can you think of someone who got you excited about
people
something?
Then go internal and start going, oh yeah, there was that time where, absolutely.
Do you remember that teacher?
It becomes personal again.
Yeah. And
then, that's nice.
And
that's
then
nice.
we have, you know, rapport.
Yeah, exactly.
Finding the rapport.
Yeah. Totally. Well, you're then, people are going into their own, each person then is going into their own world in the way that, I'm going to do it again, music makes each person hears that song in a different way. No two people will have the same interpretation of a song. But if you can make as many people as you can love that song or connect with it, that's what it is. It's all about connection. The music and the magic thing. You connect with somebody, you're there.
I think that's
you don't have to do the greatest trick in the world. You can do something that's so beautiful and simple, and they go, "Oh my God, that's like, you know, you've led them there with the."
It's the old Shakespeare analogy, or it's you know, holding the mirror up to nature, or to your audience, and actually, I think that, you know, just made me think about, you know, this idea that you have to be likable. I don't think you have to be likable. You can be kind of nasty but attractive.
Oh, sure. I was talking for me.
No. But in a general sense, like you think about Sadowitz.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He's still entertaining.
Still entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Tommy Cooper. I mean, likable. I don't know. It's everyone's different, but if you can connect, I think that's the secret, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Larry David.
Even if you're
David in comedy in Curb.
Great example.
So I find it difficult to watch.
John Cleese, Fawlty Towers, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Horrible, but you like them.
Guy, but you just fascinated.
Yeah, they're just there's an because there's a genuineness to it. There's an authenticity of character.
Yeah.
And they're showing things that are true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're showing truth.
They're holding up a mirror, like you say, to whether their character's an exaggeration or not, you're still recognising things in that you might hate, but you still go, oh, I'm fascinated by this, you know.
I want to ask you about this other thing, just with the Zoom thing and taking it into magic. Have you watched anything? Have you watched any magic lectures down the lockdown, or any Zoom shows of magic?
Zoom shows, I haven't really watched a Zoom show. I've watched a Zoom lecture, and I'm going to watch a Zoom show, actually. What's the guy's name who does the Netflix? Oh man, I'm sorry,
Justin Willman.
We talking about Justin Willman. He's doing some Zoom shows, and I'm intrigued to see not what he does, but how he does it and how he connects.
Yeah,
and he's a really likable.
in the right way, likable magician, very natural, very likable. I think very human, and his show's great on Netflix. Magic for Humans. That's right. Yeah. So I'm intrigued to see what he does. Again, it's that, I can't reach out and touch you. I can't hand you anything. So how do you connect and how do you use that? Because I don't want to be just watching a TV show, because I could be watching TV. I'm not going to pay however much it is, $20 to go and watch a TV show. I want to interact.
There's a fundamental problem with the Zoom magic show. And at its essence, the problem is you could go and watch a TV show and it would be a better magic show on video in that essence. So how do you make the Zoom show a thing on its own, worth have a value
in itself?
And it's becoming, we're all buying this stuff. We've got this kit. We're
that's true.
We are in the change is enforced, and audio is everything. You can get away with bad video. You cannot get away with bad audio.
That's very true.
I'm going to turn off if I can't. I don't like someone's voice. If I don't like the sounds, just painful. No matter who they are, I'm just like, I can't.
Absolutely.
I can't deal with it.
And what's the worst thing? No clapping.
No. So you wrote about this.
Do you know what I hate? I hate this. I just turned my mic off when I did that for full effect. But it's like, I mean, that's lovely. You're clapping, but I'm not hearing anything. I'm not on Katie's gig. There's the gig we did with her. We used some recordings from a gig of hers, an actual gig. Various gigs, I think, but just so it was actually one of, and it was just murmuring through the whole thing. So there was a bed of, and it really made a difference. And then applause in between songs. Even people were doing that. You'd see them on the screens. You'd hear some applause.
Right.
The human thing again. We miss it, as soon as that's taken out. It's like the film. It's like the movie without the music. You're like, there's silence.
Are you a football? Do you watch football?
I'm the least football person you'll ever meet. But I know they've been doing football. Is it matches they call them? Football matches?
They're called football matches, yes.
Yes.
Yes. With the ball, 11 players.
I think maybe that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
They've been doing them without crowds.
There's no crowds, and they
is it canned laughter?
Basically canned laughter.
Crowds. Wow.
But yeah, so you've got the sound. You've got this kind of weird crowd sound.
Yeah.
And it's...
Does it feel disconnected?
It feels disconnected. I mean,
I'm sure.
It helps the commentators, I think, because it gives them that kind of lift. And psychologically, you kind of phase in and out of it.
Yeah, the euphoria of a...
Yeah.
Is it goal, they call it?
A goal, yes. The ball goes in the net. I'll send you a manual, because you like manuals. With the instructions to football.
Yes, that's it.
But yeah, it's really shit. I mean,
that's funny. There's a new job I've just realised for somebody actually operating the crowd noises. There's a new job right there. There's a football crowd operator.
Crowd operator.
It must be like that. It's like, are they going to score? I better get the cheer ready.
But that's going to be the same with a live concert?
To an extent, whoever does it like that. But yeah, I think I actually tweeted Zoom today, which I never thought I'd be doing, and they replied straight away. And I said, how about everybody on Zoom has a key command that you hold down the key and it's one person clapping, the sound of one person clapping. So if you have 15 people and they all hold down the keys, it's 15 people clap. And they immediately replied and said, can you submit it to our product team? So I did.
Great.
They gave me a link to. So if it ever comes out, this is where you heard it, and this is my proof that I came up with the idea.
And you're Tim Bran on Twitter, yeah?
I am.
Yeah.
I think it's Tim Brown Music, actually.
Tim Brown Music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Because I haven't got any magic accounts. I have no magic accounts online because I said at the beginning of this that I keep the magic and the music very separate. Don't have a website. Never had a website.
Business card?
I've only ever worked on word of mouth. And obviously James helped me get a lot of gigs in the early days. James Friedman was gigging all the time with him, and so it's literally word of mouth. And I've never had a website. There's probably nothing of me up online performing magic. Don't have any Facebook, Twitter, nothing. So I've kept it very on the low down. But like I say, I'm doing music most of the time. My passion is still there for magic. Every day I'll be working on something. Even if I'm doing a studio session, I will literally work out something before I go, or work on something when I get back. And I'm always talking to friends about it as well. So it's very much if the music, which it did at some points, the music slowed down a bit naturally, then the magic kind of fills in the time. And so I'm a very busy person. I feel like I don't stop. And that's why I've taken this time off. I've taken a month off.
Right.
I always try and take a month off every summer, just to kind of, and Christmas obviously, but full month. And because I use my brain so much when I'm producing, I don't stop. I think if you ever see me in a studio or work with me in a studio, I literally do not stop and will not stop until I've kind of got it right. That seems to be in my character, and it's the same with technology, same with magic, until I've cracked the code, and figured it out, or got it sounding great and got the mix sounding great. Even though I might not have been mixing at that point, we'll have recorded something and I'll be trying to get it to sound as good as possible, because in order to finish something, you have to hear it how it's as good as it can be at that moment in time to know what's missing, actually.
Yeah.
There might be only 4 things on the track, and if you get those 4 things sounding amazing, there might not be need for anything else. Whereas if you've got the vocal really loud and the drums really quiet, or the other way around, then how can you possibly gauge what's needed? I'm rambling, maybe.
No, you're not.
A thread to all this.
No, you're not, because that's
the point of this.
It is the point. We find these doors into nuggets. Other ideas, little nuggets.
Yeah, little doors. Yeah, you're right.
And I was thinking about it, just in terms of watching YouTube the other day. I was thinking, everyone's doing a podcast, or everyone's giving advice, or everyone's doing an interview. Yeah, but some are better than others. And they're all different. They're all different. And the great thing is, actually, the positive side of it now, is you can go online and you can watch... who was I watching? David Blaine on... Joe Rogan. He was on Joe Rogan, or somebody interviewing the Josh Gad with the Back to the Future team, or the Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and all the cast, but you would never have heard that before, and they'd never have got those people together before.
Yeah,
and you're listening to some people who are really the top of their field. I mean, it's you can't argue with that. They're the best. In fact, Katie Tunstall, one of the things I listened to was her in Daryl's house, in Daryl Hall of Hall & Oates.
Oh, yes, that's right. And she was going to do a tour with them. I think she did a tour, and there was meant to be I think it's happening next year or something now. Yeah.
Those sort of collabs are amazing, and you're seeing all these musicians collaborating online now.
Yeah.
Who's the...
There's definitely trying to make the best of all this, and trying to reach out. I think there's some great moments captured, like you say, that would not have happened.
Yeah.
And that's hopefully the great thing that has come out of this, that as humans, not all of us, but I did my first Instagram live during lockdown, and I never would have done one of those before, but I'm the type of person who loves to see people and communicate, and I just thought, I'm going to go to the studio and I'm going to talk to people, all the people that, like you're doing, talking to people and finding out what they're up to, and hopefully other people will realise that we're all in this together, and that we're all doing stuff and doing our own things and just chatting, And I loved it. I was nervous before doing it, and I did it. As soon as I started, I was like, "This is great! I'm actually feeling like I'm communicating again." Those wouldn't have happened without all this stuff going on. And I like to think of there's a few bits of magic that are left up there on YouTube that wouldn't have happened, and like watching David Blaine perform. I mean, he was one of the people. Obviously, so many people got into magic because of him. But it was right when I started, and he came out, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is just changes everything. Changes the whole landscape of magic." So yeah, watching things like that and referencing stuff, and there's so much on YouTube now you can look at, and everything's up there. Old stuff that you never would have been able to get your hands on. Somebody's digitized old magic stuff and music stuff. Live performances on TV. You could never find those libraries. I don't know. Would they? They wouldn't have them, would they?
Did you see? There was a Steve Martin clip with him and Gregory Hines dancing.
Yes. Yeah. And him doing magic on a really, really funny thing on Parkinson.
I watched that the other day, yesterday.
Unbelievable.
It's hysterical.
Unbelievable.
It's the I'm going to make the queen dance or something.
Yeah,
king
yeah.
dance.
It's just crazy stuff. He's brilliant. He's brilliant.
I heard him with Sarah, the comedian. Names just jumped out of my head. American comedian. Sarah Silverman on Howard Stern. Yes. Talking about Steve Martin as just being constantly funny throughout his career, hysterical, totally on his own, even in person is
really like that.
Like that.
He's a musician as well, isn't he?
He's an amazing ukulele banjo.
Yes,
banjo,
that's
banjo.
right. Because he does combine them, doesn't he? He does do live songs in his.
And he's a magician.
And he's a magician. See, there's a lot of us about.
His book, Born Standing Up. If you haven't read it,
I haven't read that. Oh,
Born Standing Up is
okay.
Everybody should read that because
I didn't know he was a magician until later. Until I saw stuff on YouTube, probably actually, and go, oh my goodness, this they're very similar arts. I think again, performance, and we talked about this throughout.
And I think that's when you bring all these stuff in, it just enriches and it makes it's. Again, it's these Zoom shows and it's the, the Instagram magicians and all of that. Mm-hmm. And I know there's obviously a market for that. I'm not a fan of it generally, but I understand.
When you say Instagram magician, do you mean performing or just putting moves up or just putting little tricks up? Or
just the kind of the magicians being famous.
That's only for Instagram.
For Instagram,
I mean, there's some great technical stuff. Again, it's like. It's the same with music. I'm going to keep on doing this.
Yeah.
You see some like a 12-year-old drummer. There's a girl who's maybe she's not even 12. She's world-class drummer.
Mm-hmm.
And she's on Instagram. It's like, I hope she makes it as a performer or whatever, but she might not. She might be the most talented person in the world, but unless she gets that break somehow, or great guitar. You see a million of them on Instagram because I'm looking at music all the time. My Instagram. Suggestions is all music and magic and stuff, so I see all these people playing guitar incredibly well, but I don't know if they'll ever make it as a I don't know. Do they perform well? Do they, if you put them in a room to perform magic for real humans, I don't know, some would.
Some can for sure.
Again, it's all about, it's like a brilliant technical musician not being able to do a gig or something. They might be the best technically, but maybe there's no soul, or I don't know. That combination, isn't it, that makes it very special.
It's the kind of America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent, Pop Idol, whatever you want to, whichever show it is. It's the Tom Waits effect,
right? Like
Tom Waits.
Heard that, is that something you just made up?
I just made that up.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
But Tom, in fact, I made this new collection for this friend, for Sarah, who sent me this thing, the cassette that I made her
mixtape,
26 years ago. I thought I'd better make her a new one. And I thought I was going to make a jazzy collection. It became a melancholy collection. It became.
I'm sure it's nice though.
Oh, it's really nice.
So was there some Tom Waits on there then?
So it started like with Christopher Cross Sailing, which is a beautiful track, and Michael Brecker, and it's got Fire and Rain. Who sang that? James.
Not Taylor, no.
Taylor, yeah.
Taylor,
yeah. He sings on it, and it's just like melts. And then I heard this song the other day. Actually, Michael J. Fitch is in Sardinia, and he's doing a show. He's a magician. He's doing a stage show there, and they're all in a bubble. And he
masks.
No masks. No, they're all tested, and they're all in basically in a bubble.
Oh wow. And
he,
amazing.
Yeah, he put this song up. This girl, wonderful song. It's Italian. It's not a traditional song. I think it's Neapolitan. It's called Caruso. And I heard this song. It was in my brain. The tune of this song from drama school. I remember a guy sang it in a concert at drama school, and I remember vaguely recognizing it. And then I never knew what the song was, and it's plagued me.
Popped up again on your.
So she's singing it on this stage. It's
funny.
wonderful rendition. Anyway,
I was out at the hot tub, as you do, here, and I was playing my iPhone.
So much in London.
No, exactly. It's the joys of being in LA. You can have a riot here and 7 helicopters flying over, but at least there's a little pool
from
and
your
hot tub. Yeah, from a hot tub. Literally, when it was all going off here, it was like flies in the air, insanity, and I'm like, I don't know if I can deal with this. But I was playing it, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then I came back in, and this couple walked past me, and this girl, she's Italian. They're a really nice couple. We always say hello. And she went, oh, I was listening. I heard I was meditating, and I had to stop because I hear you playing this song.
Don't do the accent.
But that was pretty good, actually. Thanks.
It was good.
And he's like, I hear you playing the song. I know this song. And I was like, oh, what is it? What's it called?
Please tell me what it is.
She's like, it's called Caruso, and it's... I can't remember I wrote down the artist. Anyway, she said, yeah, it's amazing. And I was like, oh, and I told her the story. And it came back in, and I found Andrea Bocelli.
Botticelli? Yeah. Not Botticelli.
No, Bocelli.
That's the artist, yeah. Bocelli, yeah.
Singing it. Actually, his was the best version. There's a Pavarotti version, and then Andrea Bocelli's version, which is awesome. Actually, her version stacks up to. I put it's on my Facebook. But the Bocelli version.
That the beauty of, you just said, look, you saw that on somebody's Facebook, or you wouldn't be able to track that down without. This is the upside of social media or whatever, and YouTube and all that. All this stuff is there for us to access, hopefully paying royalties to the rights owners, but. It's a great resource to be able to, in the old days, I remember, I'm not name dropping. I am name dropping.
But
I did an album with Paul McCartney. It's not called,
awesome.
It's not under the name of Paul McCartney, and it might be on that playlist I sent you. It's called The Fireman.
What does Paul McCartney do?
He was in a band called The Beat. Is this like me with football?
Is he? He's a fireman.
He's a footballer. No, The Fireman is one of his lyrics, isn't it? From one of the Beatles songs. The Fireman runs in or whatever. But
is
anyway,
that Maxwell's Super?
It's a project.
Maxwell's
I think so,
Magic
yes.
Hammer and Maxwell's.
Check out The Fireman on that playlist or on Spotify. And it's Paul McCartney, but it doesn't have to be Paul McCartney. He can do whatever he wants, and it's incredible. I was lucky enough to make that album with him as an engineer and programmer. And I think he told me this, or I've read it. So I think he told me that they travelled, him and John travelled like, I think it was like 100 miles. They drove or whatever, or got a lift somewhere to go the other side of, I don't know, wherever it was, of north of England, to meet this guy to learn a chord. They'd heard that this guy had come up with this great chord, and they had to drive across for, I don't know, whatever it was, 50, 100 miles. And the guy went, this is it. And they went, oh, brilliant, take it back to Liverpool in one of their songs, That these days you'd find on YouTube in 5 minutes, be like, teach me all the bar chords. And it was just like the effort that people had to put in those days just to find out. You hadn't found out that song until you heard it on somebody. It happened to pop up on one of your feeds somewhere, It's lovely finding those little... And what's interesting is because of the algorithms and whatever, we are seeing the same things some of the time. I'll see your Facebook thing and you'll put something up and I'll like it and I'll go, oh, I remember. So there's all these little clusters of memes or whatever, or clips that emanate out, and whenever you retweet something or something, it does go to however many thousands of people and does affect people's day in a slightly different way, before it goes viral, even if it's in a little cloud of something,
I think
it's the same with music.
We've been forced forward technologically. I think we've moved forward in quite a lot of ways in this pandemic. I don't know. There's a lot of positives you can find. Look, it's easy.
He says sitting there with an entire podcast studio and a really lovely mic and DSLR cameras and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've been forced forward because I want to do it as good as I can.
As well, of course, yeah.
And also, there's a really important point about perfection. Perfection becomes this stumbling block to creativity and to moving forward. And what I found with this is I needed to get it together, and I had the concept, And actually, before I started doing it, pre-pandemic, I wanted to do something like this, but I was going to do sketches as well, and I was going to have interviews and comedy bits, and obviously when this hit, I felt like I didn't feel very funny.
This isn't going to happen.
Yeah, there's only so many.
That must be hard for comedians to be doing funny stuff, you know. But anyway, that's another conversation. But yeah, so you got your technical act together, and
comedy over Zoom doesn't work. You know, it's just like, I
don't know, maybe no.
There's no timing. You know,
no. Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's the same problem as music in a way. But yeah, so you got your technical stuff together.
Yeah, and you're being pushed forward, and so you had to. I realized I had to not like, who do I know who's and I'm very fortunate because I know a lot of really super interesting people, and I thought to myself, well, the important thing is not trying to please everybody. I ran out of people.
That doesn't bode very well for the people after me.
No, I've gone from A, you're T.
I've reversed the list.
Honestly,
you know a lot of creatives.
Yeah, and it's super excited to have you on as well because we know each other quite a long time now, and I know a little bit about what you did, but now I want to come and play with you. I want to come and
exactly
bring my guitar over
when I come to LA. Well, exactly,
and learn something,
some actual music.
Yeah, and just be
and have a jam.
And make mistakes. And I'm not that good, but each time
But your perfection point is very. I don't talk about this a lot, but I do. I've said it in a few interviews in the past that why would something be perfect? Every record you hear that I've made isn't perfect. If it was perfect, there'd be no croaks in the voice. There'd be no emotion in the voice. It would just be absolutely flatlined, and every note would be in tune. And it really shouldn't be about that. It's just connecting again. It's all about imperfection, if anything. If I comp a vocal, which is where, so the singer does maybe 5 or 6 takes of it all the way through, and maybe some bits on their own, some verses on their own, choruses on it, and then I comp it, which is literally taking little bits, and like you're editing, film editing, you're getting the best bits and the best bits, not the perfect bits, and putting them on one track. So one word might be from one take, one be from another, or a whole verse from one. It depends. Not on the quality of the singer, but on what I think should be in the emotion. It's not perfect. Neither is the guitar part. And some of the best things are like scrapes and things on the guitar that you'd never do that. And I pick them out because it makes my ear prick up. And I go, what was that? That if my ear pricks up, your ear will prick up. Somebody else's ear will prick. It's all about the magic isn't in the perfection. It's in the imperfection and the humanity, isn't it? With all these arts we're talking about. Yeah.
That's all right. I just
never thought I'd be talking about that today. That was good. You've taken me down a good.
Yeah, and that's what That's what exciting. I think there's the other thing that I thought about was with all this TikTok generation, if you like, or these new short form things. Now, I've seen someone here, for example. I don't particularly like all that stuff, but I have seen someone from Groundlings who was a teacher there with the improv stuff I did, and he created he does all these characters, and he's created this amazing thing on TikTok, Drew Talbot, where he plays a waiter and then he plays the characters in the restaurant.
Oh, great! Right,
and it just suits that really short form thing, but he's also aware of the bigger thing.
Sure.
And I thought that was a brilliant use of it. But when I decided to do this, a lot of people saying, so it should be a 30-minute thing. Or I looked at other interviews or podcasts, and I'm interested in the conversation because with the conversation, with this, we go off on tangents.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
We come up with things we wouldn't do. And you leave them in.
Totally.
And the mistakes, the imperfections. The fact that you went, we had a little problem with that, or I banged my mic, or it's humanity. It makes the humanity of it, and that's a lovely thing. So
that's what all this is about, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what podcasts are about, isn't it? I think it's like me getting a great performance out of a singer, or getting somebody in the right frame of mind. It's leading a narrative, like you said, and having a good old chinwag, and people, hopefully some people will be interested in some of the things we've spoken about, whether they're a magician, musician, or whether they're not. whether they're just into it, into the arts, or listening to music, or watching magic, or there's so many outputs for that. And there is a lot of podcasts around, but I think that when software came out to make drum beats, they thought not everybody, a lot of people said, oh, well, that's the end of music, everybody press play on a drum machine. But it's not. It's what you do with it. It's what you do with this kit. This is a lovely mic. I could be the worst singer in the world and it'll still be bad. Mm-hmm. But if you're a good singer, and this is the mic I use actually to record vocals in the studio. I brought it home because
what's that mic?
It's an Sontronics Aria. Beautiful mic, British company, and they're a wonderful company, and I've used this a lot in the studio. I've got other mics, of course, but this is the one I use a lot on vocals. On all the records you've heard, pretty much, actually, this is the mic. I'm gracing it today.
Yeah.
Nice dulcet tones.
Very nice.
But so yeah, it's the same. All these, we're all trying to do our best with the technology, aren't we?
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing right now, trying to make something, create something that's interesting that some people might enjoy.
And we're very lucky that we're around some of the most phenomenally creative people, and it's easy to get complacent in that arena because you think, like with magic, you think, well, I know it, everybody's seen it, and no, they haven't. And of the you mentioned some of the greatest. No, exactly, the greatest people in magic, like. Unbelievable. Who consistently put. I mean, David Blaine's about to float up with balloons.
I know. Can't wait to see that.
It's just genius.
He's gone. He's out Houdini now. There was a point where there was like, okay, that's cool. He's great close up doing the Houdini thing, but now he's just gone. He's found his path. He's found his thing. He's found his calling or whatever it is. He's just gone absolutely stellar, hasn't he? He's brilliant on every level.
And his gig is on YouTube. It's going to be watched by everybody.
Which gig?
The
gig that we saw. I went to see live. He took
the Ascension. Gig.
It's live. I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's going to be. I mean, oh my god! And Darren had the 25 years, was it?
Yes, 20 years, I think.
20 years.
Yeah, 2000 was his first one. Yeah.
I mean, Darren Brown.
These are moments I like the fact that they're creating moments, and I think the great broadcasters and performers do. He's creating a moment, Blaine, there. There'll be a moment when the world is watching him doing what he does, like his box and his ice thing and his standing on a tall thing and whatever. And I mean, there's not many times in this where everything's thrown at you and there's so much websites and streaming stuff to watch that moments happen. Darren doing his thing with his 20 years and creating something for that'll only happen then. It's creating these little moments that, with linear TV when it still is, but it's more on demand now. But linear TV, you sit down and the whole nation would watch one program. I sound really old now. Would watch one program, and you go into school the next day. Oh, do you see that? Yeah, it was great. And it's quoting from it, and whether it's comedy or Top of the Pops but now everything's so linear. So there are these memes, and I guess those are what we talk about now. And there's viral things that go around in the right way. But yeah, so it's creating those moments. Not a lot. It's not often. I tell you another thing. I haven't spoken this much, and I don't know if you probably have checked this out a lot. Is things like what do they call it? Immersive theatre. What do they call it?
Yeah.
Immersive theatre and escape rooms and things like that. It's really, I absolutely love it. The best thing I ever went. One of the best things I've ever been to was Punch Drunk Theatre. Did a thing in London. I've never spoken about this in an interview before. This is the first. You've taken me down another door. Immersive. I mean, you're in it. You're talking about breaking down the walls. There are no walls. You're in it as they're right in front of you, acting out really dramatic things, murders and fights and incredible stuff. And they ignore you, so you're like the camera. I just absolutely love that. It gives me I ran around like a kid in that. I was with my wife and I said, look, if we get separated in this, within 5 seconds I was off. I was sitting in a hotel bedroom somewhere reading a letter. Some actor ran in and only me and them, and they were acting, whether it was just me. I absolutely loved it. I'm sure you do too.
Did you go to any secret cinema gigs? They do that. They're great.
All of them, pretty much.
Yeah.
Absolutely love them. Absolutely love them. Some better than others. I think Punch Drunk has got to be the absolute best thing I've ever seen, I think, in that kind of side of things.
I was in conversation with them at one point about doing something and never...
Secret Cinema?
No, Punch Drunk.
Punch Drunk, fantastic. I mean, they're a whole...
But it never came
industry on their own. They've got whole workshops apparently in north of London that they workshop. Now they'll be workshopping stuff and building sets and trying stuff out. And they do run courses. You can go and learn about how to run the narrative through a set. You walk into a room, what you're going to look at, how are you going to make something out of it? Are you going to absolutely the detail in those sets? I literally remember sitting on a bed in a hotel room, smelling the hotel room or motel room, reading a letter. I mean, it's just picking up a phone, hearing somebody on the other end. I mean, it's just like crazy.
I did one for Lexus a few years ago, and I was playing a Hollywood film director, as it happened.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And it was with Jude Law, and the whole they flew in all these journalists from all around Europe, and the idea was they were the stars. So there was all these crowds cheering for these journalists.
Them.
No, I was in the route, so I came up later, but so the journalists arrive and all the paparazzi are taking pictures of the journalists, like they're the stars who've arrived for this premiere. And so they film it as they all come in, and Jude Law arrives. And he's with the journalists, and he's like, "Oh yeah," and this is and so they're filmed with Jude Law. I mean, God knows what he was being paid for that, more than I was. I'll tell you that. And so they get taken to these different rooms, and they're all part of this. They're film stars. They're all part of this experience and this Lexus thing. And then they come into the cinema, and as they come in, I'm there, and like, "Hey, oh my God, it's Tim! Fantastic, nice to see you, Tim. You were hard to work with, but anyway." And I'd play off them.
So they're the actors as such.
And then we had extras in the audience as well, so they're cheering and they're all excited, like they're the guests seeing these famous film stars coming to their premiere. And then they'd show this 2-minute clip of them arriving. They'd edit it in the time that they'd walk through this experience. And I had to do it with all these different groups, and I'd be the film director. And then I say, "Okay, we're going to roll VT now."
I mean, when you're in that set, I mean, that's just brilliant. Yeah, I went to the Moulin Rouge Secret Cinema. Goodness me. I mean, I loved it. I'd sent some people to see it and they hated it. But that's a whole other story. I'll tell you about that offline. It was hilarious. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. And just that's a new type of thing that again, you're surprised. You don't know what you're going to see. Well, you do. The plot or whatever, but you don't know what you're going to experience. Everybody has a different experience. Those moments of magic these days are rare, and I lap them up. I love escape rooms. Again, you don't know what you're going to experience. Every moment is a surprise. You're trying to figure stuff out, and absolutely love it. I know it's not for everybody, but I try and create these. I try and create magic for myself, I guess, and to experience that. Oh my God, this is incredible, because I love theatre and I did a lot of. It's another whole thing, but I did a lot of kind of acting, and as a kid, and my parents were in pantomimes and acting and local theatre stuff in Guernsey, so I did quite a bit of that, and I loved that. And I remember going backstage and seeing the actors, and it's really, really magical for me. Even though it was, just a small productions, I absolutely loved going backstage, and it's real. As any kid, I probably does, and I still get that now. Sometimes I go backstage at a gig, and I'm like, "This is so cool." I'm seeing behind the set and looking around a film set or looking around a theatre set, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it.
We should value the performers. I think that's what we need to remember. The first thing on lockdown, the first question is, what shall I watch on Netflix? And and these people, they're a bunch of weirdos.
And all the crew.
And all the crew. And the crew, the tech.
Talk about Spotify, that's the equivalent, isn't it?
Yeah, setting up people who set up lights, and the people who put sandwiches on sets, and the people who the florists, and the appreciation.
Exactly.
It's not a one-man show. None of this is a one-man show. It's never a one-man show. It takes a team, and we elevate ourselves beyond the ability of the singularity. We become
there
much
might be one
more.
person on screen, but there's a whole,
There's
team about it. It's like in the studio when, there's maybe a person like a runner or whatever making the tea. If they're not the right vibe or the right the right person, it completely sets the even if they're not saying a word, it can really skew the whole session into something that you didn't intend it to be. So that teamwork, it's got to be so right and so.
Which is why you work with the same people a lot. You find your group, your team, to construct something.
True, I do like to find new people to work with and new give people opportunities without and get people to experience the studio and hopefully go on to have a career as well.
Yeah.
So I intentionally do that because I know that happened with me. Somebody I met helped me get the gig in London, helped me get the studio gig in London, and I always try and do that with people from Guernsey, from whoever. People write to me randomly. The last few days, I've had a few saying I'm just out of whatever school, and I'd love to, and you can immediately tell if they're the kind of right vibe or the right. I said vibe again. Sorry, they're the right kind of person. Again, it's getting on with people. If they get on with me, I worked with somebody recently who they were doing some work with me. I think they're maybe 18, 19 years old. Guy came in just to run some stems off of me in the studio as technical. And I started talking. As soon as I started talking, he took out a notepad and started writing down. I was like, you're the right guy. You're pulling out a piece of, a notepad and you're writing things down. You're not, it's just the right, you can tell within 10 seconds. It's like liking a singer or liking an actor. You can tell within 10 seconds, or just meeting somebody, actually. You can tell within 10 seconds whether you're going to get on or whether you have things in common or not. Sometimes it's not about having things in common, but you can tell whether you're going to gel,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's incredibly the teamwork. We've hit on a few interesting kind of subjects throughout this, haven't we? The teamwork, connecting with people. We're all trying to reach out and, well, we're not all. Some people don't like being on a Zoom or a screen but it's not all about being on the screen. It's behind. I've got a whole team of 20 people behind me. You don't know that.
And they're all naked.
Really quiet. Running around with masks on.
I think we should get to wrapping this up because we've been going. You've been the most interesting person that we've done.
Oh,
full stop.
You say that to all of that's very nice of you to say so. I loved it. I love talking about what I know, and it's the only. Obviously, we all do, but it solidifies some things when you start to talk. How long we've been talking? A couple of hours. It solidifies things and makes me realise and remember what I'm in this for. Not that I don't every day, but it definitely solidifies it, putting it out in the world, and hopefully other people get something from this, or learn one little thing, or just enjoy us rambling on.
No, I mean I can ramble on forever.
So can I. How long you got?
I've got all day.
What time is it then?
I'm happy to keep going.
I'll be here at like 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, I think that's...
But I liked... there was an artist that was on my mind, also from listening to music, which was Florence and the Machine.
Oh, yeah. Somebody I'd love to work with, actually.
Yeah. I thought
she's great. She's found her own...
It fit.
Corner. Yeah. Definitely. No, I really like. I love the sound she creates.
Yeah.
And another thing, like Bat for Lashes and people like that. Love Bat for Lashes. I don't know if you know her work.
No.
Oh, check her. She's incredible.
What's her name?
As well. Bat for Lashes.
Bat for Lashes, as in eyelashes.
Yeah. Right. Bat for Lashes.
Bat for Lashes.
Great. She's amazing. Kind of Kate Bush, Aurora. Not much like those, but that same world. That kind of. And Florence, it's kind of that same kind of really strong identity, and she sticks out as an artist I'd really love to work with.
So after your month off, projects ready to go or set up, or
I'm pretty much busy till I think it's currently the end of October. So there's a few things, an album I'm working on remotely, where they've done a lot of the recording, and I'm taking it and kind of, I guess it's additionally producing. So we'll use a lot of the thing and mixing. So I'm adding what I think it needs, maybe rearranging a few things, halving a chorus now and again, or just kind of producing it, but in my own studio without the artist as such. They've done a lot of the recording, so maybe they'll come down at some point, but at the moment it's remotely, and that's really exciting. Actually, it's kind of a bit like the Gorillaz kind of vibe, that kind of, again, electronic, bit of hip hop, bit of ska kind of, really kind of, and a bit Clash bass kind of thing, real lot of bass lines and stuff, really cool. And some other things that I'm working on, just one-offs. I'm doing a lot of stuff around Europe. I work with a couple of artists out in Belgium and Holland that have done really well out there, and through that, I think a lot of other artists have come from those areas. So I do a lot of stuff in Belgium with Belgian artists. They come here, or I go there. And again in Holland, Amsterdam, work with quite a few bands who've done very well out there, and a few things in Germany as well. Yeah, so it's very much not so much in America, which is what my reason was coming to LA is my path. I want to push it over to LA and New York, but mainly LA for now, to do some producing out there and work with some artists. I've done a few things with some American artists. An artist called Halsey, who's very big now, Halsey, probably on that list. I wrote a song called Control with her, which has done very well. She's a really huge artist now, multi-million selling artist. She's amazing. And this was just before her first album. I wrote this song and it would end up on the album, which is fantastic.
So do you own publishing rights on that then as a writer?
Yeah. So you can, again, that song was written 3 years ago and I've maybe only just started getting royalties from it. So that's the thing, you don't get paid for writing a song, but later on you'll get the royalties, hopefully.
Right.
But it has to have a lot of plays to get a lot of royalties. But with a multi-million artist like that, it can definitely add up. And stinks and things like that, you get it on a film or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a lot of projects coming up and writing things as well. I've only properly written with artists in the last 4 or 5 years. So I've done an album with Natalie Imbruglia under lockdown, which I'm very excited about. I've done an album with an Irish artist called Imelda May, who's fantastic as well. You should check her out if you haven't heard of her.
Imelda May.
She's I did a poet. There's a poetry album which has just come out. It's on Spotify and iTunes, which you'll love. It's with music, so I did the music and produced the whole recording of it, and she wrote the poems. And beautiful, beautiful speaking voice. Some of them I can't listen to without crying. It's incredible. It's on Spotify if you check it out. And we've done a music album as well, which will be coming out pretty soon. Maybe this year, maybe next year. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, so lots going on.
We'll stick up some playlists.
Touch wood. I'll feel free to share that playlist that I sent you. And if you search for Tim Bran on Spotify, or just put that playlist up, I'll be happy to share that with everybody. That's kind of a little kind of walk through of what I've done over the years. There's a lot more up there, but I can't put everything in one playlist. It would be ridiculous.
What about have you thought of doing any scoring for film and TV?
I've delved into it, and I've worked on a few things for films. I really enjoy it. The one thing is challenging, and I know people who do it and they're very good at it, is that it constantly changes. So you'll write a great piece of music to camera or to picture or whatever, and then they'll go, we've edited that scene out and we don't need that bit. So can you just cut that bar and you half a bar out? Or is it like, So it's you have to be very pliable in your editing and your protectiveness over your work, I guess. You've really got to think about the bigger picture, literally, and what it is doing, the music. It's not forefront. It's very important, but you've got to really be prepared to edit the hell out of it, or them to go, actually, we don't like that anymore. We've changed the narrative of that scene. We want something a bit more like this now. And you're like, Again, I've done commercials and things like that where I'm working to a brief and stuff. And I've had a few syncs, but when you're writing the music for a commercial, it's pretty tough. It's not a world it's very quick and very last minute and very... I've always gone in thinking, this will be great. I'll really enjoy it. And the money's great and everything, but I've never really loved it. And I know people who do it, like I say, but they just have it as an art form. It's like doing kids' magic. That's magic, but that's magic. But it's a very different art form in itself. It's not magic. It's another whole crowd control entertainment thing. That's the same with commercials to me.
Yeah.
very different, and scoring as well.
I was listening
it's a lovely thing to do.
I was listening to you speaking of being emotionally affected by stuff, Ennio Morricone and Cinema Paradiso. Yeah,
absolutely. Those were Dread Zone references. In fact, we sampled Ennio Morricone on a Dread Zone track, and he had 50% of the royalties. There you go. Nice connection.
Oh wow!
It's beautiful. We sampled the whistle from Fistful of Dollars. For a few dollars more.
Right.
And gave him obviously the royalties for that. So I've got a writing credit with Ennio Morricone. That was the upside of that. Great. So love all that stuff. I mean, that's pure atmosphere. You can listen to the music on its own and see the picture.
You see the it's really
you feel it.
Weird.
It's just incredible. That was a whole genre in itself. That music, incredible. And Cinema Paradiso as well, beautiful.
Once Upon a Time in America.
I mean, all that stuff. I love it when a score stands up on its own. It can be supportive, but also it can stand up on its own, and you can listen to it and enjoy it as music, not as something that's been crafted around the picture. It's its own. Mm-hmm. It might have been crafted around the picture, but it still feels like it's got its own musicality. And some great soundtrack albums, aren't there? Goodness me.
Well, Tim, it's been fabulous. Thank
you. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. It's been feeds the soul, these conversations, I'd say.
Definitely.
What you said about humanity, and it's just seeing you, it's been, lovely. It's just feel like we're in the room together
we would be hanging out.
Yeah, having a burger. We were just missing a burger and a milkshake.
Yeah, exactly. It's magic. And sitting down.
And a deck of cards. And
exactly.
All of that.
But no, we will do that. And in the meantime, get this out there, and let's keep feeding each other's minds and souls and ears and eyes, and I don't mind kind of these days being a backroom as such. Producer doesn't get to go on stage and whatever, but I absolutely love every day that I do it, and helping artists and bands go on their path. I'm glad to be a part of that, and hopefully I'll be valued in that with my flight hours of production throughout. Seeing all the pitfalls and things, rabbit holes they might go down, and trying to help them through that, and not go down rabbit holes and stuff, and make the record and finish the record and get it out there, so that everyone's happy.
Cool. Well, that's
lovely to talk to you, Paul.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. We're going to sign off. I will say, because I haven't done this, but I have to say this, that people need, or I'd appreciate it, if you enjoy this stuff, please subscribe, please like. People always say that at the end of these things, but you got to remind them.
Support the cause.
Support the cause, because these things don't happen on their own. They're pretty conceptual, and they take a lot of work. And if you do like it, leave a message, a comment, share it around. It'll be on Spotify and all the podcast audio side, and on the YouTube side. In fact, Spotify are going video soon as well, September the 1st.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Will this be on Spotify video? Goodness me.
I don't know what.
Will we able to do that? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. If they want to pay me $1 zillion, I'll sell it to
exactly.
them. But
ask them. So.
Yeah. But so they're doing a video on their platform now, so it's quite interesting. So there's a bit of a competition. Right. So it's really there's a lot of stuff out there. So Tim, we shall say goodbye, and like I said, please get involved, share it around. I'll put as much info about Tim on the description, and you can find him on Twitter. That's your channel to get.
Yeah, Instagram as well these days.
Instagram as well.
Tim Bran Music.
Fantastic.
BRAN. Everybody thinks Tim Brown. I've had them all.
Brand, not brand.
I've had that too.
Bran.
Bran as in the breakfast cereal.
Tim is good for you.
Exactly. Don't say makes you whatever.
All right, mate. We'll end it there.
Very nice to talk to you.
And you.